Opened in 2000, Kentucky Speedway has quickly become one of the IndyCar Series' most famous racetracks, and today it plays round 7 of the Afterburn IndyCar Series for the Kentucky 400. Once again, Will, Vincent, Doyle, Johnson in the booth. Good afternoon, Doyle.
Good afternoon, Will. Glad to be here. See, we're under the lights tonight.
Under the lights at Kentucky for what is going to be a long and difficult race for a number of these drivers. 21 drivers have qualified here today. Young O setting the field with a 24.394 in qualifying, and to run through the field momentarily, row number 1 will be Young O and Tim Doyle. Tim Doyle lining up on the outside of row number 1. Jonathan Goke and Jeffrey Kohlberg in row number 2. Mark Warmington, Mark Fangman in row 3. Dave Jinks and Yves Warner in row number 4, with Philippe Lambert and Matthew Lambertson in row number 5. Row 6, Julien Pham and John Ailes, one of the best qualifying for Julien Pham so far in the series. Giorgio Ponti and Dan Liench line up on row number 7, with Jussi Nimmerman and Brian Simpson riding up on row 8. Randy Crossno, Alan Wilson even in row number 9, with Lee Walker, Andrew Aitken in row 10, and Rene Murray 21st and last. And Doyle, we talked about the light. You talked about the lights just a moment ago, and the lights make a huge difference to not only the speed but the grip levels on this racetrack. Having raced it in both the day and the night configurations, these cars are a lot faster under the lights, but also got a lot more grip, which means sometimes these cars get a little bit oversteery early on in a stint.
Yes, and that's something that you have to watch out for. We were watching practice a little earlier, and you were seeing that happening. A little bit of snap spinning and a little bit of rear ends kind of kicking out there. So it's going to be interesting, especially on this racetrack where you can get 2 and 3 wide fairly comfortably. So we'll see we'll see what happens as these guys, get into that situation, whether they can keep their cars down on the track.
And we're going to bring in our in-race reporter for today, Matthew Lambertson. Matt, you qualified 10th for this race. Very tough racetrack, but ample passing opportunities. How are you going to play your race out today?
I'm going to try to sit back for a while, but my racing instincts may get the better of me before too long.
And you've always been pretty good at this racetrack, not only in traffic, but working that high line as well. How important is it going to be to run various lines during this 400-mile race?
I just plan on running wherever the other person isn't running.
Cheers, Matt. We're going to go green momentarily, so I'll drag you back up to your teammate, and good luck in the race. And moment of interesting conversation. Tim Doyle, Young O, once again starting from pit lane. It seems to be the thing that I like doing in this series.
And it's interesting, what's the purpose of that in each race? I think maybe the challenge of working the way up through the pack, and I don't know. I mean, hopefully they're not thumbing their nose at the other drivers by doing that.
So, with Jonathan Goke also starting from pit lane, Mark Warmington moves up to the inside of row number 1. Jeffrey Kohlberg on the outside as the pace car comes in. Green flag in the air. We're racing here at Kentucky, and Jeffrey Kohlberg's got himself into, I believe he might have actually got himself a black flag there on lap number 1 for literally flying past the field there, and I don't think Mark got going very quickly.
Yeah, I don't see him slowing down. So he may not have gotten that black flag, but if he didn't, he was really lucky, because it looked like he flew right by there.
So as we come down to complete lap number 1, we're just waiting for our timing to update. Jonathan Goke has just come back onto the racetrack. Jeffrey Kohlberg is your race leader. Mark Warmington in 2nd, Dave Jinks in 3rd, Yves Warner in 4th, Philippe Lambert rounding out your top 5. Tim Doyle, Young O onto the racetrack, and these guys, I swear, they just out to have fun half the time. As you seeing Philippe Lambert there putting a little bit of pressure on Yves Warner in that number 88 machine, and the battle for the 4th position.
Yeah, and I think those two, the way they work together, I think it's just part of a practice or a challenge. They try to get hooked up together and just see how fast they can get through the field. So they're obviously practicing for something.
Giorgio Ponti coming under pressure from John Ailes and Mark Fangman in the battle for 8th, 9th, 10th on the racetrack. Julien Fan managed to get himself a couple of positions on the start of this race due to driver start from pit lane. He's up into the 6th position. Down the edge is in 7th. And Brian Simpson, new driver to the series, the former owner of the 16th Street Racing League, he's currently sat in the 9th position in that number 2 machine.
Yeah, Jeffrey Kuhlberg is off to a great start here. If you remember back in the road racing, Jeffrey Kuhlberg had some really, really rough races, coming in multiple laps down, having a hard time keeping his car on the track, but looks like he's having no trouble right here early on with the race here in Kentucky.
So, Jeffrey Kuhlbergen, he's going to hate me for that. Jeffrey Kuhlbergen is your race leader. He's pulled himself out a 6/10 of a second gap to Mark Warmington in the number 17 machine. Dave Jinks is currently in 3rd. Yves Warner is in the 4th position. And Jeffrey Kuhlbergen doing a good job out front already. The gap is 6/10 of a second as they come down to complete lap number 5. Mark Warmington is under no pressure at all, really, from Dave Jinks in 2nd. Yves Warner trying to close down at number 76 machine, though, but he's still got Philippe Lambert looking very racy behind him.
Yeah, you've got Dan Lee Edge and Julien Fan back here kind of close together. It looks like they're trying to get a little racy there for the 6th and 7th position, but for the most part, these cars are spread out quite a bit. I'm a little surprised that we didn't see more 2 and 3 wide racing right off the start.
And point of note, Matthew Lambertson, in hitting the wall on lap number 2, he had to bring the car down pit lane. We did stay under green flag racing, so he has now scored 2 laps down already in this race. And what we saw is team tactics, not necessarily team tactics, but driver tactics coming into play in these races, trying to sometimes pin drivers laps down. Someone like Matthew Lambertson, he is a driver who, if you can keep him laps down, then it makes it a lot easier to race him.
Well, yeah, we've seen Matthew before. He'll claw his way back up to the top anywhere he can, so he can be really aggressive, especially when he's under the gun or he's not out front. So we'll see what happens when he gets back on the race course.
As we're currently looking at we're looking at Tim Doyle even in the number 11.1 machine. Once again, starting from pit lane, they are currently 7 seconds away from their nearest rival, which is Alan Wilson in the number 59 machine. But an interesting point to note in relation to the Afterburn IndyCar series is that these restarts are single file. So, with the exception of the last 10 laps, you don't have to go back to the end of the longest line if you're a lap down. So you can still come in, make your pit stop, and, you know, if other drivers coming around you, then you have the opportunity to work your way through the field, and you're not going to get caught out by, you know, having to go to the back of the end of the pack all the time.
Yeah, unlike some of the other tracks here, I think the idea of getting hooked up and drafting will work here, but this is not that kind of track per se. So unless their car is extremely fast, it could be possible that those drivers up front, if they can hold it together, will remain up front.
In the battle for the 4th position, Philippe Lambert has overtaken Dave Jinks in the number 76 machine. Dave Jinks did have a very strong start to this race, was riding in the 3rd position. He has now fallen back to the 5th spot, and looks as though he's going to come under a little bit of pressure from Julien Fan momentarily. Fan is using that outside line at the moment, and unlike a lot of the 1.5 mile ovals, you can run any of the 3 or 4 racing lines at this racetrack and almost be as fast. That inside line, you know, whilst it is the shortest way around the racetrack, doesn't seem to have the speed as you pinch yourself down into the corners after 2nd or even the 3rd racing line. And that does mean, like at a couple of other tracks, Homestead and Michigan, quite a lot of the passing can happen on the outside rather than the inside.
And surprisingly enough, as we look out to that 3rd and 4th place battle, Philip Lambert is putting quite a bit of pressure on Yves from time to time, which is interesting because Yves is generally a racer that you see once he gets clean air, he tends to move out. So we'll see if they can pull up position on Mark Warmington there in second.
Yeah, and the battle out front, Mark Warmington looking very racy as he's trying to look down to the inside of Jeffrey Kuhlbergen in that number 79 Aerox racing machine. Mark Warmington's managed to claw his way back to Jeffrey Kuhlbergen in the battle for the lead. And Philippe Lambert is doing a really good job of not only holding on to Yves Warner, but putting pressure on him. And Yves Warner is absolutely no slouch, not only on the ovals, but specifically at this track. Seen some tremendous performances from him before. And let's not forget, he won the Kentucky 300 last season. So he's got a number of laps behind his belt, and he is the current defending Kentucky champion.
Now, I'm wondering a little bit, Mark Warmington isn't...
So caution out. Caution is out on the speedway. So our first caution of the day, and it is involving Randy Crossno. Randy Crossno in the number 4 machine, coming out of turn number 4. I believe he just gets loose and clips Brian Simpson. He gets into the wall, looks as though he is able to carry on, however. Gets loose on the... It doesn't, not even on the seam. I think he just went up on the weight jacket too early there at the completion of lap 15. Just coming out of turn number 4, losing it in the middle of the second lane, and game over for Randy. What a moment.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. You see a lot of that. As we saw on the road courses, there's a lot more room and a lot more space, and the speeds are a lot lower. So you can make mistakes and spin and get into the grass and stay in the race. But unfortunately on these ovals, at these high speeds, the chance of you coming into contact with something that's going to trash your car is probably 95%. So that's a shame as far as that goes.
So Brian Simpson in the number 2 IMS IndyCar machine is down in pit lane. He is going to have to go to the end of the longest line as he's just completing his service. However, a number of drivers coming down pit lane momentarily. Jonathan Goat, Tim Doyle, Young O, Juicy Nimmerman, Rene Murray, John Ailes, Giorgio Ponti, Dave Jinks, Mark Fangman, Danley Ench, Philippe Lambert. They're all coming down pit lane. And a number of drivers getting a bit confused by the rules, I think, because under green flag conditions you have to use the apron all the way around the racetrack. However, under caution, I think they're all still thinking they had to do exactly the same thing there.
Yeah, and you see the whole field checking up there for the pace car. Pace car was a little slow coming out of the pit, so you're going to see most everybody pitting. It looks like Jeffrey Koolbergen is staying out on the racetrack.
That is an interesting point to note there. As you see, Mark Warmington, Yves Warner going side by side in the race out of pit lane. Does look as though Mark Warmington is going to get the job done there. Winning the race off pit road from Yves Warner. Jeffrey Koolbergen will keep the race lead, however. Philippe Lambert looks though he's going to come out in the 4th position, right behind Yves once again. Danley Ench in 5th, Mark Fangman 6th, and then Dave Jinks, John Ailes. Julien Pham lost himself 4 positions there off pit lane. He is our biggest loser. And Doyle, for the most part, it looks like the top 5, however, came out just the same way they went in.
Yes, it does, and I think some people were a little surprised. They may not have remembered that we're talking single file restarts here, so that kind of changes the way your pit strategy works. So it'll be interesting to see what happens on the next one now that they've been reminded of that.
So it looks as though Matthew Lambertson's going to get 1 of his laps back after being 2 laps down earlier on. This is going to give him the opportunity to make 1 of those laps up, but he's going to want a caution in the next, have to have a caution in the next 30 laps or so, or needing a long green flag run if he's really going to make that strategy work out for him. So we're going to go back to green flag racing next time by. Jeffrey Koolbergen is... no, sorry, I'll take that back. 1 car stayed out on track. That is Lee Walker, who will bring the field back to green flag racing in the number 70 machine, the number 70 KV racing machine. Jeffrey Koolbergen will line up in 2nd. Andrew Aitken coming down pit road to get some service to his race car in the number 27. So the field is all kind of messed up at the moment. I believe it's Lee Walker from Jeffrey Koolbergen from Andrew Aitken technically set in the 3rd position. Mark Warmington in 4th. Yves Warner in 5th. Philippe Lambert in 6th. For Danley Ench, Mark Fangman, Dave Jakes, John Ailes and Julien Pham rounding out your top 10.
That's interesting the way, I'm not sure what the strategy was to stay out, because Kentucky Motor Speedway has been typically one of the tracks that tends to eat the tires off your car, so staying out and not getting tires, I'm not so sure how smart that was. Looks like he's ducking in the pit lane right now.
Oh, okay, take that back. We have still, the lights are still on the pace car. Caution does look as though it's been extended by a lap or so. Lee Walker is now coming down into pit lane. Matthew Lambertson has slowed himself down to get back behind the pace car. So it does look as though we are going to stay under caution for another lap or so, as we're going to complete lap number 17 across. So Lee Walker coming down pit lane, he's going to give that lead up back to Jeffrey Kohlberg in the number 79 ARX racing machine. But you're completely right, the tyres at this track are absolutely crucial. More than fuel, you always need to make sure you have fresh tyres when you need to, as the grip does go away on this track, even though it's less so at night. I see the lights are out on the pace car this time by. You still want to have fresh rubber if it's going to be a green flag run of more than 20 laps.
Yeah, that was probably a pretty smart move by Lee Walker, is to go down to the pit, go ahead and get his tires and get out of the way, because he would have gotten run over by the people with fresh tires, absolutely for sure, and that could have caused another caution. So that was kind of a safety issue to get him out of the way on this restart.
Yeah, Lee Walker qualified in the 19th position. He will be classified, however, as leading one lap in the number 70 race, in the number 70 machine. Matthew Lambertson has got the wave around, so he's going to get one of his laps back. And I believe that Andrew Aitken got an EOL penalty there for breaking the speed limit down pit lane. So Andrew Aitken is going to have to restart in the 18th position, as we're going to come back to green flag racing in just a matter of moments time to round through your top 5. Jeffrey Kohlberg is your race leader. Mark Warmington is in second. Yves Wallam in third. Philippe Lambert in fourth. Dan Yench in fifth. As we're going to go back to green flag racing at the end of lap number 20. The pace car is once again going to make that hard turn down to the left. And as it does so, Jeffrey Kohlberg is going to bring the green field back to green flag racing here at the Kentucky 400.
You saw during that restart a lot of people trying to position themselves to possibly make a pass on the outside right off the start. That's typical for some people, but of course it's single file restarts. It definitely is a game changer here.
Oh yeah, Yves Warner was trying to make a move on Mark Warmington, his teammate, as they came through turn number 1. Looks as though he's going to get another opportunity to come off turn number 4. Looking down to the low side. See whether Yves Warner is going to try and take away that second position all the way down to the yellow line as they come back into turn number 1. He's going to take the second position away from Mark Warmington. Yves Warner is now on a charge, but you see Mark Warmington there using the high line. He's having to get completely out the throttle there. Cold tyres this early on in the run, you don't always want to be down there in lane number 1. So Yves Warner got himself a second position and had to relinquish it, as we're back under caution with Jonathan Goat spinning.
Philip Lambert into the wall. I don't know if he caused a caution, but he slammed the wall really hard right there.
So 2 cars involved in that wreck from what I can see. It looks like Jonathan Goat was involved, Philippe Lambert in the number 8 machine. So the 8 and the 08 involved there. As having a look back, they could be 2 separately related incidents. Jonathan Goat slamming into the wall by himself. I believe that is the incident that caused the caution, whereas at the same time you had Philippe Lambert going through turn number 2, exactly the same thing, just losing the car on cold tyres, getting into the wall. He managed to ride the wall fine, so I believe it was Jonathan Goat that caused the caution, as he was struggling to get his car back onto the racetrack.
Yeah, that's too bad for Jonathan. He lost control of the car early into the corner and was struggling to keep control of it, but just could not reel it in. But yeah, 2 separate incidents happening almost simultaneously.
So that means that we're under caution for the second time here at Kentucky, as Mr. Waltrip always says, caution breeds cautions. Hopefully we're not going to have too many of those here today. But cold tyres is one of these issues here. I see Younger and Tim Doyle thinking about coming down into pit lane. They decide better of it, as no other drivers decide to make that turn down towards pit lane. But the way this track works, like Michigan, you don't want to get your tyres on the seams too early. But at the same time, the way you use your steering input changes completely throughout the course of a fuel run. On cold tyres, you want to use very little steering input, using the weight jacket and the anti-roll bars front and rear to help you along the way. And then as you go through the stint, the car gets a lot tighter and you have to use more wheel. But then at that pit, you have the issue where you have about 2/3 way into the run, the car starts to get looser again. And that's when you see drivers having to make adjustments on the fly to both the weight jacker and the anti-roll bars if they're going to keep their car pointing in the straight and narrow.
Yeah, and I think that's part of it too. I think some of the drivers kind of getting those race jitters, understanding that it's a 267 lap race, and it's okay to take it easy on those cold tires for a couple of laps, because what you have to right now on lap 22 is not what the race is going to look like by lap 266. So everybody, I think, needs to relax. A point of note that you, after that big spin and crash, Randy Crossno is back onto the track. Apparently his pit crew was able to do some service on his car and get him back on the road. So, but I don't think Philip and Jonathan are going to fare as good.
Yeah, it does look as though Jonathan Goke's car is completely total for the moment. Philippe Lambert did look as though he just got himself a little bit of side pod suspension damage. That might be able to get himself fixed on pit lane. So we currently have 4 drivers lapped down: Matthew Lambertson, Jonathan Goke, Philippe Lambert, and Randy Crossno. Randy Crossno currently scored 21st and last in the number 4 machine. And there's, I don't believe there's any real takers down pit lane at this time on the racetrack. Point and note, young Tim Doyle, they managed to get themselves into the 10th and 11th position respectively. I'll tell you what is interesting to see though, that battle between Yves Warner and Mark Wilmington, that is going to hot up during the race, as Yves is a very tactical racer. He doesn't always go to make the aggressive moves early on. He does like to sit behind people and save himself a bit of fuel, play the strategy game, but when Yves wants to go, he is one of the most ferocious racers out there, and it'll be interesting to see how that battle between Kohlberger, Wilmington and Warner develops during this race.
Well, you being the team leader, what are the team orders here? I mean, is it a little early for teammates to be battling it out for position at this point, or should they just stay together and try to pull on the pack a little bit? What would you do if you were out there talking to them right now?
If I was talking to them right now, it would be a case of bring the cars home. You know, you have the last 50 laps to race each other, get your last pit stop out of the way, then start racing. For now, it's all about track position, track placement. You know, keep yourself in the top 10, give yourself the opportunity to make the moves when you need to, but keep all 4 cars on the racetrack.
You know, something to note here too, if you'll notice, Mark Fangman has managed to sneak his way up to 5th position here. He's currently your combined championship leader. He's currently around 196 points, so he's considerably ahead the second place car of Mike Larson, who is not in the race today. Istvan Below is in 3rd. He is also not in the race today. Nico Brandt not in the race today. So Mark Fangman looks like he's just looking for points today. Even in 5th position, may be able to get him that.
Yeah, and with drop beaks running the same way as they do on the iRacing official series, with 2/3 of the race counted, then it means that, you know, for Fangman now, if he can rack up some solid points, it means all the other drivers have the catching up to do, as we're going to go back to green flag racing this time by. And for those of you who are paying lots of attention to the broadcast, why, I have no idea, you'll notice that we've got to see the bird model. So well done for Joni and the blimp cam for getting to see the birds flying over Kentucky Speedway, even though it's nighttime. They're probably migrating somewhere. So to run through your top 5, Jeffrey Kohlberger is your race leader. Mark Wilmington in 2nd, Yves Warner 3rd, Danny Yench in 4th, Mark Fangman in 5th. As we're going to go back to green flag racing, as we'll show 26 laps complete here in the Kentucky 400 on Glacier TV. Will Vincent, Doyle Johnson in the booth. Jeffrey Kohlberger getting very close to that pace car. He's going to have to decide just when he wants to go when this field comes back to green flag racing. Pace car going to make that turn down pit lane one more time, and we are back to green flag racing here at Kentucky.
As we go green, you can take a look at from the viewpoint of Yves Warner there. He's going to see if he's going to try to make that pass right off the bat during the start, whether he's going to lay back and ride with his teammate here. Looks like he's getting aggressive fairly early.
Again, looking to the low side. This is what he did last time. However, got himself very loose on the apex of turn number 4. So let's see whether or not Yves Warner is going to have the opportunity to do it last time by. In fact, I take that back. He was in turn 2, exact replica of what he did last time. Warmington looking down to the inside now, not really blocking, but taking that inside line. He's going to force East Warner to go round the long way as he's getting a little bit looser at East Warner on the high side. But meanwhile, GC Nimmerman, as we're under caution again for the third time, these drivers really are struggling early on in this race, and the momentum is just horrible here. But GC Nimmerman was coming down pit lane. I'm having a look to see exactly where the crash was. And I believe it was behind Young O. So we're just having a look back as we're going 3 wide into turn number 1. And it was Julien Pham in the number 78 machine. Again, getting it loose on that second groove in turn number 1. It seems to be the bulk of everyone's issues today, just snapping it loose. I believe it was a single car crash, no one else involved. Very close to making a multi-car wreck there. But for Julien Pham, he had Rene Murray right behind him, spinning right in front of Murray, inches apart between the two of them. And Doyle, these drivers really just, I think they want to get themselves a green flag run, but a lot of these drivers are being very aggressive very early.
Absolutely. I mean, you look at just Rene Murray. Wow, what dodges a bullet. I don't know how he managed to avoid that crash, but yeah, and a lot of them getting, like you said, too aggressive too early, and it's interesting on that high side too. You got to be careful out there because the grip isn't quite as good. So that's interesting that they're letting their cars get loose. They may be getting a little aggressive on the weight jacker there.
And as I said earlier on, even though you can use the anti-roll bars and the weight jacker to stabilize the car if it's too loose or too tight during the run, one thing that I've noticed at this racetrack is that when the tyres are cold, there just is no grip at all if you're using a low tyre pressure setup. So you have to use very slight steering input, almost correcting the steering wheel minutely, and it almost seems to be that you cannot just jerk the wheel to the left or right on these cold tyres. You literally have to guide the car around the corner, feel the slide and adjust. But for who I'm talking about here, so you see Julien Pham even. Julien Pham, he was having a good race up until that point, so that would be disappointing for him.
Yeah, and I think too, some of it is how much you've practiced in the draft or behind other cars, because on a track like this, you can get into a situation where you're right up on somebody and the car gets like an arrow push and it feels too tight. So you make an adjustment, and that adjustment may be too much, and then the next thing you know, you're swapping ends, or something can happen and you're set behind a car and you roll out and lose a little bit of the draft and get some air. That can happen again. So this is one of those tracks where those finite adjustments and actually understanding how your car is going to act in traffic is really important.
And personally, I found one of the most vital things to use at the start of the run is actually the front anti-roll bar. Whilst the weight jacker, does tighten the car up, it seems to be that the front anti-roll bar keeps the car more planted to the race car if you increase it early on in the run. Whilst you're probably about 400ths of a second slower for those first few laps, again, you can keep the car on the racetrack, and it means that you can run anywhere, so you don't have to change your if you have to change your lines mid-corner, you've got a lot more forgiveness. And one of the things we were just talking about is, although this race is scheduled for 267 laps, this could end up being a timed race unless these drivers start doing some green flag runs.
Yeah, that's a shame too. It's really early for everybody to get racy, but we've seen 4 solo spins coming out of the corners. So, we've got some racers that weren't quite ready and didn't quite understand how their car was going to react on this racetrack. So that's unfortunate. Hopefully, we've seen most of that gone, and maybe these guys can get in and get some pit repairs, and they'll take it a little easier, because again, 267 laps, we're only on lap 31.
Precisely. The Kentucky 400 is one of the longest races of the oval calendar. Only the Indianapolis race, announcement of which is coming this week about the Indy race, and also the Michigan 600 are the 2 races which are longer on the schedule. Perhaps if you take in the twin Charlotte races, it's about the same distance. But this is a long race, and these drivers, you know, you have to approach a long race like this completely differently to the way that you'd approach a 50, 60 lap sprint race. And for driver mentalities, making that adjustment and not being afraid to, lose a couple of positions early on in the run, that's one of the most important things for these drivers, to just settle down into a rhythm. And the thing is, with so many cautions early on in the race, drivers are not getting the opportunity to have that rhythm, as we're going to go back to green flag racing at the end of lap number 32. We've currently got 15 cars on the lead lap. Jonathan Goke, GT Nimmerman, they are both 1 lap down. Matthew Lambertson, Randy Crossno, Julian Pham, Philippe Lambert, they are all scored currently as 2 laps down on the racetrack. So 15 cars on the lead lap. We are waiting for that time when people can just start making a slightly more extensive green flag run here. As interested to see a couple of battles on the racetrack. Young O and Tim Doyle, they still got to make their way through the field. He's one of Mark Wilmington. That is set to carry on. Let's not forget, Mark Fangman is currently just sat there in the 4th position, just cruising around there in the 4th spot. But the top 5 drivers are very closely separated on the racetrack. But when Young O and Tim Doyle come into play, this race really is going to hot up.
Yeah, I think you're seeing a lot of people just, the attrition factor. I think that is a valid strategy in this race so far from what we've seen is, hey, I'm just going to get around the track. I'm just going to stay out of trouble and see what happens, because we see somebody like Mark Fangman, we see Dave Jinks, John Ailes, all they're doing is just keeping their car on the track and they're gaining positions.
Pace car going to come down pit road momentarily. Jeffrey Kohlberging bringing the field back up to green flag racing here in the Kentucky 400 on Glacier TV. Green flag in the air, and once again you see already he's looking to try and put that move on Mark Wilmington, looking to the high side once again. He's one who doesn't care about the fact we've had 3 cautions to starting the race. He wants to get that jump on Mark Wilmington and get his way to the front as he looks to the low side again, coming off turn number 2. Looks like he might just be able to dive down the inside this time by. Hopefully he can keep it safe over the seams, and he does somehow manage to do so. Easewanner is up into the 2nd position side by side to come down the front straight away. Easewanner, is he going to be able to get clear as they come through turn number 1 and 2? Very close to Mark Wilmington. He's running in the 3rd lane at the moment, but Easewanner does look as though he's about to get the job done as they come down into turn number 3 and 4. Perhaps now, as he dives into the corner, Mark Wilmington running all the way up the racetrack there just to get him a little bit of room and tuck him behind. Easewanner now up into the 2nd position. His next victim, Jeffrey Kohlbergen for the lead.
Yeah, that's interesting right there, being teammates, that Eves were going to race that hard, and then Mark, didn't want to give it up right there. So both of those guys probably took a lap off their tires there and got them heated up a little bit. And that plays into the advantage of Jeffrey Kohlbergen, because while they're battling back there, they're losing time, and he's gaining. And Mark Fangman, as you see, is right up there on Mark Wilmington now. That played to his advantage as well.
We've got ourselves about a 4-car breakaway. As you see, Young O, he is down into, Young O is down into pit lane. I believe Young O's had an incident where he might have tagged the wall as he was going 3 wide, and having a look back on the replay, Young O is down into pit lane. Don't know if this just was Sunoco race gas, but Young O, he is going to go down at least 1 lap here at Kentucky.
He got a tow for some reason.
So this means that that promotes Tim Doyle up into the 10th position, Alan Wilson into 11th, Lee Walker into 12th, and Jurakin into the 13th spot. Up front, however, Jeffrey Kohlbergen is going to get pressurised by Easewanner in about 2 or 3 laps time. We have ourselves a 4-car breakaway with Jeffrey Kohlbergen, Easewanner, Mark Wilmington and Mark Fangman, as we're currently looking on board with Tim Doyle just overtaking Giorgio Fonti for the 9th position. They're 3 wide ahead of him. This is going to get very interesting very quickly. Is anyone going to give anyone any room here? 3 wide as they go through the centre of the corner, and almost so close. Tim Doyle looking to the inside of Brian Simpson. That was inches away from disaster there. Great job by those drivers. We had Rene Murray on the outside, Brian Simpson in the inside. Jonathan Goke ran through the middle, and then straight immediately afterwards, Tim Doyle diving down the inside. He's managed to gain himself 2 positions there, up into the 7th spot. But these drivers really are racing hard as we're completing lap 39 of 267.
And that's amazing back there that those guys are racing that hard on lap 39. Just hope they can keep together, that's all. It'd be nice to see, you know, at least 18, 19 cars complete the race.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, someone needs to go down and talk to the safety car, tell him that he might need to top up on his own Sunoco race fuel. I see there Mark Wilmington getting close again, putting a little bit of pressure on Yves Warner in the battle for the second position. And now what Jeffrey Kohlberger wants to happen, you see these drivers go side by side, because not only is it going to burn their tyres, it's going to give Kohlberger the opportunity to put a little bit of a gap away, and then Mark Fangman can make that a free car battle, and all of a sudden Jeffrey Kohlberger can start driving into the distance. Dave Jinks is currently sat in the 5th position. He has got himself a 1.3 second deficit to Fangman in 4th, but a 2 second advantage to John Ailes in the 6th spot. John Ailes, however, is going to come under attack from Matthew Lambertson, trying to work his way through the field. Jonathan Goat trying to make his way through the field. And let's not forget, Tim Doyle charging through. His next victim on the racetrack will be John Ailes for the 6th spot.
Yeah, and he's actually sitting behind, looks like Jonathan Goat there, even though he's a couple laps down, is definitely still on the race there. So Tim Doyle's going to have to get himself by Jonathan. We'll see whether Jonathan just lets him go or whether he races him hard all the way through.
Well, you know, even though these two drivers are from competing teams, you find your friends when you need them. And if Goat, Lambertson and Doyle can work together, they can pull themselves back up to the lead pack. Now for Lambertson and Goat, that means they can get laps back on their race. For Tim Doyle, this means he can get himself into that fight up front for position. So by working together, they can do themselves a lot of good. You see Goodenough and Goat almost whacking the wall there down the backstretch. For Tim Doyle, it's a case of how aggressive does he need to be. If he can just hold on to the drive and get the way up his racetrack, he's going to be in prime position later on in this run.
Speaking of aggressive, I think you're about to see Yves Warner with Jeffrey Kohlberger in there. There's going to be a pass attempt here within the next lap. It looks like Mark Wormington and Mark Fangman have kind of pulled back, and they're going to let those two go at it. Yves apparently wants that lead, and he wants it right now.
Yeah, I see Mark Fangman there moving himself up into the 3rd position, taking the position away from Mark Wormington in the number 17 machine. But down to the inside goes Yves Warner. Yves running very low in these corners there. I was so close there to the two brushing up. Jeffrey Kohlberger, he's not going to give up that lead, forcing Yves Warner all the way down to the inside line. That is not the fastest way around the racetrack. Jeffrey Kohlberger knows it, and he managed to keep the lead for another lap as a complete lap number 46.
That was a really aggressive move by Yves Warner, and Jeffrey Kohlberger really battling to get that back, got right out back in front of him after coming out of the outside lane. That was really aggressive racing right there, especially for lap 47.
The momentum is on the 2nd or 3rd lanes here at Kentucky, so that means that if you are a driver and you can, you can pin the driver down into the 1st lane, it makes passing very difficult on the low side. However, if you can get yourself up on the outside and pinch the driver around yourself, that in some ways is the easier opportunity to make a pass. Yves Warner looks as though he's still having to look down to the inside once again, but Yves wants that lead, he wants that clean air, and he wants it before his tyres start going away.
Jeffrey doing a great job of defending his lead out front, running a clean line, not too aggressive, but he seems to have full command of his race car on this racetrack right now.
Oh yeah, Jeffrey Kohlberger in the number 79 Aero X racing machine is leading this race with Yves Warner all over his rear wing. Mark Fangman currently sat in the 3rd spot, Mark Wormington in 4th. Dave Jinks is dropped back to now 3 seconds behind this lead pack, but he's got Tim Doyle racing with Jonathan Goak and Matthew Lambertson all together there. As you see Dave Jinks getting very loose. Does he keep it out the wall there? Barely. Dave Jinks almost scraping the wall there, getting the car very loose, getting it all the way up into the grey. He's lost himself in position there to John Ailes and Tim Doyle. So Tim Doyle, that was easy for him. Now for Tim Doyle, is it a case, is he going to put pressure on Goak, or is he going to allow Goak and Lambertson to pull him to the front?
be interesting to see, but it looks to me like he's actually just using Jonathan Goke to save some fuel and help him pull him out front, which is probably a good strategy at this point in the race. We still got a lot of race to go, and they've managed to get themselves all the way up to 5th position. So, you know, why bother to do much more than that at this point?
51 laps complete here in the Kentucky 400 on Glacier TV, round 7 of the Afterburn IndyCar Series. Jeffrey Kohlbergen just has a tiny little twitch there. And the gap between Jeffrey Kohlbergen in 1st and Tim Doyle in 4th is currently set at 4.2 seconds. We're going to see how that comes down to come across the line to complete lap number 52. For Jeffrey Kohlbergen, he just is a 24.6 lap there. Tim Doyle currently sat in the 5th position. Pretty much identical between these two drivers, so Tim Doyle isn't gaining that much just yet. In fact, Tim Doyle was 15/100 slower that last time by.
And still, he's one who still continues to put a lot of pressure on Jeffrey Kohlbergen. Again, the tires are going to start to be a factor here if they are not already. He's starting to fall back a little bit, but he keeps ducking, looking to that inside line. Jeffrey's not going to give that up, but once again, I fear that the tires are starting to heat up and getting a little greasy, and I hope we don't see some kind of an issue up front with our leaders.
Yeah, if I was Kohlbergen, Warner, or Warrington, I'd be talking to each other and say, okay, yes, we've got Mark Backmann here, but if we all four line up together and, you know, try and put away, we have the opportunity to drop Tim Doyle further, because he is racing Jonathan Goke and Matthew Lamberton. They are racing on the racetrack quite hard. So for Tim Doyle, he's not being able to make full use of the draft as he would be able to otherwise. The gap, it's kind of stagnating between about 4.1 and 4.3 seconds. So Tim Doyle is not gaining anything, he's not losing anything. But these 4 drivers out front, they're having to work a lot less hard at the moment to, you know, maintain that lead, because Tim Doyle has got to put severe pressure on both Goke and Lamberton.
And I guarantee you, Jonathan Goke and Matthew Lamberton are not going to just let him roll by. So he's got quite a challenge on him. But up front here, too, I mean, if they just make sure they work together a little better, which it seems like they're starting to do, that'll play into the next pit stop, because the larger the gap, the less chance they have of losing some of their positions. So it is in everybody's best interest right now for them to work together as opposed to just burn their tires off racing at lap 58.
Yeah, the gap between Kohlbergen out front and Tim Doyle in the 5th spot, it has remained in that 2/10 window between 4.1 and 4.3 seconds for the last 7 or 8 laps now. Doyle lost himself about 3/100ths of a second the last time by. So for Tim Doyle, it's a case of right now, if he can be there or thereabouts, it's not going to be that much of an issue. But if these two drivers of Goke and Lamberton continue to fight ahead of him, this is where he's going to lose that tyre. And although Tim Doyle is absolutely dominant down pit lane, he wants to be close enough so he can make some form of an advantage.
Well, with the single file restarts, remembering that the next caution that happens is going to gather up that field, so he really doesn't have much to gain right now, because I think it's inevitable there will be another caution. So I think he's kind of playing into that, hoping that that's going to happen. Gather up the field, he'll start in 5th position, and that's going to put him right up front with the rest of those drivers. He'll be right on Mark Warmington's back wing, and that's definitely going to play out as exciting racing, I believe.
And for Lamberton and Goke, these two Goke is 1 lap down, Lamberton is 2 laps down. They want a caution, ideally, between the time that Kohlbergen, Warner, Backmann and Warrington pit and when they need to pit, so that they can get the wave around as soon as the caution comes out, just drive around the pace car, because they won't be the leaders who's picked up, then take their Sunoco race gas and get 1 lap back respectively each. But by allowing Tim Doyle, who looks like he's saving a ton of fuel behind these drivers, as the gap's now up to 4.6 seconds, so 4/10 of a second lost in the last couple of laps. If Tim Doyle's saving fuel, then it's going to make life very difficult for these drivers, as we have a car coming down pit road momentarily. That is Lee Walker in the number 70 machine. He's bringing the car down pit lane for service at the end of lap number 61.
Well, it looks like Jonathan Goke just put a pass on Matthew Lamberton, so that's interesting. So they're doing a little racing there, unless Matthew wanted to save some fuel. but neither one of those two were giving up anything for Tim Doyle.
Absolutely nothing at all. And what that means is that these drivers have got to figure out what their strategy is. I mean, come on, we've still got 205 laps left to go in this race. Some people are really going to be scared when I say that. But, you know, this is a long race. Strategy plays a big, big part. You need to not only be looking to see, you know, when your next pit stop is, but how does that pit stop feed in to the rest of the race? At what point do you know that it would be good to go at the end? How many pit stops do you need? Can you find the time to make up these laps? And, you know, saving yourself 2 laps of fuel can be, you know, the difference maker in one of these long races. I remember Texas last year, Matthew Lambertson saved a ton of fuel and ended up being able to win the race, whilst other drivers behind him, they were trying to race him too hard earlier on, tucked behind him, saved himself 2 laps of fuel. That was the difference between him running out and being able to take the Twin Shepherds.
Yeah, we have a little bit of a battle going on here for 8th and 9th place. We've got Brian Simpson and Giorgio Ponte they're still kind of racing it out there.
Yeah, Brian Simpson going all the way below the yellow line down the front straightaway. It's always scary when that happens. Brian Simpson in the number 2 machine, Giorgio Ponte in the 00. Caution out on the speedway at lap 66. Having a look to see who that is momentarily. But caution is out, our 4th caution of the day on lap number 66. And this is where things are going to get interesting when it comes into strategy, as it was Lee Walker coming out on pit lane on cold tyres into the wall, turn number 4, off the second groove yet again.
Now these drivers really have to be careful. Their pit crews really got to talk to them, because those cold tires on this track coming off, and like you said, this racetrack, you have to stay on the apron during green flag, and that apron can get a little slippery, so you really have to be careful and make sure that you're in control of your car and maybe go a little slower.
And let's not forget also that, you know, cold tyres after pit stops is something as simple as, you know, potentially not resetting a weight jacket properly or something along the lines of that. But at some point I will go down and paint a big caution sign in the second lane saying, use subtle steering inputs. I see the field coming down. Jonathan Goke and Matthew Lambertson both stay out. They are in the position now to get the wave around, as all of the leaders are down onto pit road momentarily. Randy Crossno has also stayed out, so we're looking to see who wins this race off pit road. Kohlbergen into pit lane. All these drivers look as though so far they managed to get the job done coming in, and we're looking now to see the race off of pit road. Yves Runner is going to win the race off pit road there.
Knew he was looking for that. He may have taken a little bit less fuel right there to get the job done, and then you've got Tim Doyle, who's always good at the pit stops. He's coming out, looks like in position 3. So the pits, but we talked about that caution being what Tim Doyle was looking for. Obviously, in this case, that's worked to his advantage. So now the race is going to take on a whole new dimension up front.
So from this round of pit stops under our 4th caution of the day, Yves Runner takes the lead from Jeffrey Kohlbergen. Mark Fangman loses a position to Tim Doyle, as well as Mark Warmington losing a position. So I believe your top 5, once it settles itself down, will be Yves Runner, and then Jeffrey Kohlbergen, Tim Doyle, Mark Fangman, and Mark Warmington. Yep, we'll round out your top 5 with Dave Jinks in 6th. John Ailes in 7th, Giorgio Ponte 8th, Danny Engine 9th, Alan Wilson rounding up your top 10. Rennie Murray gained nothing on pit road. I believe that Brian Simpson lost himself 1 position as well. But now it's going to be some of these drivers, as much as I hate to say it, they're going to need the caution, the ones that took the some of them that took the wave run. See Randy Crossno coming down pit road himself. Let's see whether or not. No, Matthew Lambertson and Jonathan Goke, they both stay out. So they're going to need a caution within 20 laps of the green flag flying, or an incredibly long green flag run.
Yeah, and that's going to cause them, instead of being able to pit under caution like these drivers have, they're going to have to pit under green. So they are very much in jeopardy of losing that lap that they just gained back. Interesting to note, I wonder what's going to happen here with Yves Runner up front. Was Jeffrey Kohlbergen actually slowing him down, I wonder? And I think we're about to find that out, whether Jeffrey Kohlbergen can hang with Yves Runner the same way that he did when he was out front. And you have the pressure now behind from Tim Doyle. So I have a feeling that Yves may have an opportunity to pull out in front, because I doubt Tim is going to be satisfied with P3 for very long. Where did Yves Weiner go?
I have absolutely no idea. And this could not, surely not be the curse of the leaders once again.
Oh, no.
The curse of the leaders, which has dominated the Afterburn IndyCar series for the last 4 weeks now, has once again affected Yves Weiner.
He's disconnecting.
So for Yves Weiner from the lead, after he's worked so hard, his race is pretty much over. This is atrocious. We'll find out from our spotters to see exactly what the reason behind that was, but that's going to give the lead back to Jeffrey Koolbergen. However, single file restarts, being able to overtake on the high side as soon as you get past the start-finish line, and looking at who's in second position, this restart is going to be absolutely mental. As you see there, a number of drivers are going to try and take the wave around. Jonathan Goke, Matthew Lambertson, Jussi Nimmerman, Young O, Julian Pham, they are all going to try and take the wave around this time by. They're going to get themselves one lap back for Jonathan Goke, Julian Pham, Young O. That's going to put them back onto the lead lap. For Matthew Lambertson, I believe that's going to... no, sorry. Goke is going to get back into the lead lap. For Lambertson, Pham, and O, they're going to be scored one lap down. But this is going to be an interesting restart. With Jeffrey Koolbergen down on the... from this first position, Tim Doyle in the second. If I was Jeffrey Koolbergen, I would get yourself all the way up to that wall for this restart. Don't allow... as Matthew Lambertson also has retired from the race, do not allow Tim Doyle to try and make a move on the outside coming back to the green flag.
Okay, this is definitely curious. Matthew Lambertson and Yves Weiner just disconnecting from the track, or basically retiring from the race. I don't understand that.
Matthew Lambertson was scored as 2 laps down. He got one of his laps back, looking to see whether anything happened. I believe he tried. Oh, okay. Lambertson got caught by a black flag. I'll explain that once we go back to green flag racing. But Jeffrey Koolbergen is going to lead the field back to green flag racing. Take it easy, Koolbergen. Be careful. You're going to have Tim Doyle on your outside. Green flag in the air as we complete lap number 70 here at Kentucky. And here you see now Tim Doyle is going to start closing down Jeffrey Koolbergen as they come through turn number 1 and 2. How long is Doyle going to leave it until he tries to make the break for the lead? They've got themselves a 6-car advantage to Mark Fangman. And Tim Doyle looking to the high side, dumming to the high side, looking down low as they come through turn number 4. Tim Doyle down to the low side, almost running on the back of Jeffrey Koolbergen there as they come past the start-finish line. Which way is Doyle going to go next as they come down into turn number 1 and 2? This is going to get very interesting as we're currently working lap number 72 of 267. Tim Doyle, Jeffrey Koolbergen, this is a battle for the first position here, and it really is hotting up.
That battle is an understatement at this point in time. So now we got Tim Doyle trying to take another look on the inside. Jeffrey Koolbergen not having any of that, not really appreciating those aggressive tactics this early on in the race. So we're going to see if Jeffrey Koolbergen can hang on, as Tim Doyle will not let up. I can tell you that right now.
Koolbergen almost could have got done for blocking a little bit there as he pulled down to the inside. We need to check to see whether he blocked the momentum there, Tim Doyle. We'll see whether Tim Doyle makes a complaint about that. But very aggressive racing for the lead here. Jeffrey Koolbergen is determined to hold on to the lead of this race. He looks as though he wants not only the lead of this race, but the 2 bonus points it goes with leading the most laps. So, for Koolbergen, he knows the longer he can keep Tim Doyle behind him, the easier it is to try and get those 2 bonus points.
And look how he's kind of protecting that race line. He knows that bottom line is not the fastest line. So, especially in those turns, he's staying just above that bottom line there. So if Tim Doyle wants to make a move on there, he's saying, yeah, go ahead, but you're not going to get by me because I'm on the fast groove.
Now here you see Tim Doyle down to the inside. Jeffrey Koolbergen, he knows now that Tim Doyle's got the inside line, just backing off the throttle a little bit. And Tim Doyle will be scored as your race leader at the end on lap number 75. Koolbergen relinquishing the lead for the first time properly in this race. It looks like he's going to try and see whether he can run the high line back around him. But Koolbergen doesn't look as though he's giving up. He's going to look back down to the inside as they come into turn number 3. Just backing off the throttle, I think, a little bit there, as he's playing it safe and cautious now. He knows Tim Doyle's ahead of him, but Koolbergen doing a sterling job here at Kentucky Speedway, one of his favourite racetracks. We talked about how he's had some tough luck on the roadside the last couple of races, but now we're back in an oval. Koolbergen really showing his hand.
Yeah, he's done a stellar job of trying to stay out in front. Tim Doyle is obviously a good competitor here, and Jeffrey Koolbergen's, I think now he said, all right, fine, you want the lead, you got the lead, I need to save my tires, I'm going to stay behind you. Because definitely, if you're Jeffrey Koolbergen right now, is that it? Do you keep racing, or you just go ahead and ride behind, save some fuel, save some tires?
Jonathan Goat in the number 08 machine. He got himself back onto the lead lap under that last caution. He is now up into the 11th spot, overtaking down the end and Andrew Aitken. Aitken and Goat have their moments between each other. Not the best of friends on the racetrack, but Goat managed to get the job cleanly there on Aitken. Still pretty much side by side, but now Goat's managed to get the job done, get himself some clean air just for the moment. As next up we'll have Brian Simpson, Rene Murray, Alan Wilson, Giorgio Ponti, who are separated by less than 1.5 seconds on the racetrack. To update you on Matthew Lambertson, what the issue was is he tried coming round, once he got the rave run, he tried going into pit lane to top off on Sunoco race gas, not realising that the change to the iRacing rule structure in the off-season meant that you can't go around the track and then try and top off in fuel, otherwise you'll get yourself a 15-second black flag stop and go. That was the case for Lambertson, and being still one lap down even after that wave run, I think he just decided that just wasn't for him.
And Jonathan Goat continues to press the issue back in the pack there. And, you know, you got the number 8 car, Jonathan Goat, and the Sugar Plum Ferry car. You know, he's really aggressive, and now he's back on that lead lap. He's definitely going to be pressing up front. So plenty of race left. This is only lap 81 of 267. So if Jonathan Goat can get rid of his demons and keep his car on the track, I have a funny feeling you're going to see him in the top 10 soon.
So you're riding on board now with Jonathan Goat in that 08 Sugar Plum Ferry machine. He's worked his way up into the 9th position. Next target is Alan Wilson in the number 59 Club England machine. As you see, they're 2 wide ahead of him, as you have Julian Pham and Young O. Young O trying to get himself back on the lead lap. The charge he needs to do now is get his way through the field as he unlaps himself some, Giorgio Ponti, I take that back. Giorgio Ponti currently racing in the 7th position in the 00 Sunny Spira TNT racing machine. Ponti doing a good job again on the ovals. He's one of those drivers that he's very good at getting himself nice, clean top 10 finishes on both road and oval. And Ponti, let's not discourage the fact he could end up with the top 10 in this overall championship.
Yeah, and he's currently 13 in your overall championship standings, so he's definitely in the hunt, and a good finish here today will definitely help him with that.
Julian Pham bringing the car down pit lane.
Oh,
slowing
Jonathan Goat
on the apron.
On pit road.
So this is what we were talking about. These drivers, they took the wave round, but now they need to get themselves some Sunoco race gas and some fresh tyres. This pit lane, very difficult. Had to be very careful both in pit in and pit out. Slowing the car down to the 45-mile-an-hour speed limit. Julian Pham in the number 78 Nuclear Energy machine, and Jonathan Goat in the number 08 Sugar Plum Ferry car, both down pit lane. They've got to also be careful on pit exit, making sure they don't get themselves too much speed too early. Reset your weight jackets, get yourself back onto the racetrack, and be careful of the second groove.
And for Jonathan Goat, it's interesting. He managed to get himself all the way up to 8th position. Then he has to pit. So is he going to lose his lap again, or is he going to manage to get out on the race course before he has to come back around and do this all over again?
Jonathan Goat, he's going to go 1 lap down. Oh, look at that. He's literally going a lap down there to your leader. So he has lost that lap once again. Having a look as he comes back now onto the racetrack. He's got Young O behind him as he's trying to get himself up to speed. Having a look at Julian Pham, seeing exactly where he is. He's just merging onto the racetrack now. Julian Pham being very cautious as they come out of pit lane. As just having a look, Randy Crossno having a look down on the inside of Alan Wilson in, this is the battle for Sorry, this is Randy Crossno trying to get his lap back from Alan Wilson. Alan Wilson is now under pressure from Brian Simpson. Almost free wide at 2 different points. They go through the corner there. Brian Simpson and Andrew Aiken taking the position away from Alan Wilson, who dropped from 8th to 10th position in a matter of corners. And this is one of those things, if you get caught on the wrong line at the wrong time, the technical term for it is being freight trained. If you're having to back out the throttle and run the long way around the racetrack, it's very easy to lose yourself 2 or 3 positions in a matter of half a lap, Doyle.
Yeah, and especially on a long race like this, you get caught out in the wrong spot, and somebody's got a good draft going. Like you say, the freight train ensues. So, you know, even in this race here, one thing to remember with Randy Crossno, he's currently sitting in 15th position, but you only have 12 cars on the lead lap. So as the race goes on, I think you're going to see that the number of cars on the lead lap is going to dwindle. So you might even be able to be a lap down and get 10th, 11th, 12th position by the end of this race.
Yeah, the last race at Kentucky last year, Yves Warner was actually the only driver on the lead lap as we finished the race, for no other reason as he was the one who managed to nail pit strategy. But it does go to show that if you can time your strategy right, keep your car clean, on a race like this, if there are long green flag runs, you can make up a lap if you're a lap down, if you can use, you know, your car to your advantage. But at the same time, if you get it wrong, then you can lose yourself a couple of laps all at the same time. Currently looking at the top 4, Tim Doyle, Jeffrey Kohlberg, Mark Fangman and Mark Warmington. These 3 drivers currently separated by less than 6/10 of a second. Jeffrey Kohlberg keeps them dumbing to the outside line. If these 3 drivers go to that outside line, they could try and make the move on Tim Doyle. Tim Doyle there did look as though for one moment Jeffrey Kohlberg was going to have a look down to the inside. But once again for Kohlberg, holding his own, and when we consider the credentials for Tim Doyle, who I believe is 6 hours away from being confirmed as the Season 1 2012 iRacing IndyCar 5th Series champion. I hate the names for these things. So when you consider all of that, and the fact that Kohlbergen is, you know, right there with him and putting a lot of pressure onto Tim Doyle, then just summing up how good a day the 79 car's having. And let's not forget as well, Mark Fangman, the road specialist, in 3rd position, and Mark Warmington currently sat in 4th, and these 4 drivers almost 6 seconds clear of John Ailes in the number 14 car, who's in 5th.
Yeah, and it's almost certain that you have Mark Fangman and Mark Warmington are sitting back there. They don't want to get too far back. They've got enough car to keep up, but they're saving fuel, saving tires, and hoping that that's going to be to their advantage at the next pit stop. And you're right, Mark Fangman, and then you got Jeffrey Kohlbergen up there. Tim Doyle's not going anywhere. They're letting him know that in no uncertain terms that, no, we have your back wing. You're going to have to race.
Interesting point to note is I'm keeping a very close eye on the time, and if this race settles down and have some long green flag runs, we can get the race done in the 2 hour 20 time limit. However, we need to have a maximum of 2 cautions per 100 laps from now on. Otherwise, this will become a timed race, and that will make things incredibly interesting with strategy. And whilst you don't want to lose a race on strategy or win a race with strategy alone, it's something that's going to be in the back of someone's mind. And this is where things have become really interesting. Tim Doyle putting a lap down on Young O. It looks as though Young O, though, is trying to tuck in right behind behind Tim Doyle to become a rear gunner for him. But Young O, he is now 3 laps down, and for Young O, that's not something that you're ever used to hearing.
Well, there must be some kind of damage on his car, because you could tell that looked like it was going to be the strategy, that Tim Doyle was going to come up, they were going to get back together like you've seen many, many times before, they were going to tuck under each other, and then try to check out of the pack. But the racers up front, they're not going to have any of that. So, but it's kind of interesting that Young O is not able to keep up with the rest of the cars.
Yeah, Young O tucks in right with Mark Fangman, and this is what happened here. Mark Fangman is now under pressure from Mark Warmington as Fangman gets a little bit unsighted there by Young O. This is going to give out the line Mark Warmington the 3rd position back, so Young O there settled down into 3rd in line from the leader, but has allowed Mark Warmington to get around Mark Fangman.
Well, I'm wondering if this is a strategy too, because it's almost like he split them up. He knew they were teammates, and now the people that were pushing Jeffrey Kuhlberg and keeping him up with Tim Doyle have now lost. You know, they're way back there now, so that four-car breakaway is no longer. It looked like Young-O was not able to keep up, but that was obviously a ruse.
Yeah, so Mark Warmington and Mark Fangman, they are very close to losing the draft from Tim Doyle and Jeffrey Kuhlberg. So it is going to be a two-car breakaway out front with Tim Doyle in the number 11 Foyt wine machine and Jeffrey Kuhlberg in the number 79 Aerox racing car. Across the line last time by, 1.3 seconds, the gap now between Tim Doyle in first and Jeffrey Kuhlberg in third. And Mark Warmington in third. So, even though they've got, the Young-O is right in the middle, these two drivers, it doesn't look as though Mark Warmington can get close to Young-O, but it does look as though in that mix of Young-O going another lap down to Tim Doyle, it's helped spread the field out. But let's not forget Jeffrey Kuhlberg, he's not been more than 2 car lengths behind Tim Doyle for the last 20-30 laps.
Yeah, and it's pretty obvious the whole strategy there was to cut Jeffrey Kuhlberg from the herd. And yeah, because Young-O suddenly found a burst of speed that he didn't seem to have while they were coming through that pack. So again, Jeffrey Kuhlberg is going to have to get it done. He's going to have to get it done by himself. And I wonder if Young-O, his plans is to catch up and then cut him out, like probably going underneath him and pushing him to the outside so he can get underneath him.
Doyle Johnson, ever the conspiracy theorist. I'll tell you one thing, however.
Absolutely.
On the strategy gate, at times it is faster to lose yourself a bit of time and be pulled around the racetrack. You see there, Jason Nimmerman going a lap down to Tim Doyle and Jeffrey Kuhlberg. And I've done the same thing myself plenty of times. If for some reason I'm off strategy and I'm going a lap down, it's a lot easier to just let the car by and just be pulled around the racetrack, because you'll go faster 2 cars together than you'll ever go by yourself. So, for Young-O, he has the opportunity to catch some time on other drivers in this process. As the next victim for Tim Doyle to put a lap on will be Rene Murray, currently 11th and last on the lead lap. Looks like he's going to be going down a lap in about 4 or 5 laps time. So we're currently completing lap 106 or 267 here at the Kentucky 400 on Glacier TV. Will Vincent, Doyle Johnson in the booth, and Doyle, this first 107 laps has been mental.
Absolutely. We've got great racing up front, good racing in the middle. We've got cars going a lap down. We've got pit strategies going on. So this is the total package today out here in front. And I have to mention again, conspiracy theory out there is no reason for Young-O to be where he's at, being 3 laps down, other than my conspiracy theory. I'm going to stick with that.
You're going to stick with your conspiracy theory all you want. So Rene Murray goes down a lap. And point of note, Giorgio Ponti and Dave Jinks have been having a great battle off of our screens. Dave Jinks currently running in the 7th position in the number 76 West USA car. Giorgio Ponti in the 00 is currently riding in the 6th spot. He overtook Dave Jinks' position a couple of laps back. But Giorgio Ponti is on the move. He's pulling away from Dave Jinks. About a car length a lap at the moment. So Giorgio Ponti in that 00. Caution is out. Sorry, caution is out. And that is Mark Fangman. Mark Fangman spinning it into the wall. All by himself once again on the second lane of turn 4.
It looks like he got some rear wing damage, some suspension damage there. Unfortunately for my conspiracy theory, that's going to bust the field up, because now...
So, Mark Fangman, after riding solidly in the 3rd position for a large portion of this race, he's going to have to try and get that car back down to pit lane. If I was you, Fangman, I'll just take it down the infield oval, get yourself the end of line penalty and stay in the lead lap, because what you're doing at the moment, you're going to put yourself a lap down. Just go down into pit lane. But this is dreadful luck for Mark Fangman, and under this caution, I need to quickly go paint out and paint a warning sign on turn 4.
Okay, we'll tell him you're coming. That is, and once again, it was a single car accident, total spin. Fortunately, no other drivers managed to get into that, which is thankfully so. Once again, we're going to see that number of cars on the lead lap slowly start to dwindle, but that's okay. I mean, if you can get a top 5, doesn't matter whether you're 1 lap or 5 laps down, it's still a top 5.
Yeah. And we've decided that Mark Fangman, according to Joni Backmann, is the Kentucky 400 Donut King. Looking at the replay, it's just how many donuts could you do there in the space of 10 seconds? We'll count it up and we'll let you know later. As now Mark Fangman's going to bring the field down, bring himself down pit lane. Just checking to see whether or not he's being able to stay on the lead lap. It does look as though he's just about able to do so. Number of cars into pit lane for service. Tim Doyle leads Jeffrey Kohlbergen out of pit lane. Number of drivers staying out on the racetrack by the look of it. I'm going to have a look through. Young O, Rene Murray, Juicy Nimmerman, Jonathan Goke, Randy Crossno. They're all trying to get laps back. Giorgio Ponti stays out. He's going to inherit the lead of this race momentarily. However, it does look as though Tim Doyle keeps the lead from Jeffrey Kohlbergen, while Wilmington inherits the 3rd position after Fangman's crash. John Ailes in 4th, in 5th even, but for the moment, Giorgio Ponti in that 00, he's coming down pit lane now, so it looks like he's just trying to lead 1 lap or keep out of the confusion down in pit lane in that San Ispria TNT racing machine. Beautiful new livery there for Giorgio Ponti, I have to say, by the way.
Absolutely, you know, that's a new one. I actually hadn't seen that one before, so he's got good livery. And you see some other drivers now that were a lap down, just coming down to pit. They weren't. Doesn't look like the pit lanes were open for them the first time around, so they're going in as soon as they could.
So down the end, and Randy Crossno both making the trip down pit lane. Young O's, Juicy Ninneman and a couple of others, they're going to try and get the wave around under this caution. Jonathan Goke, Juicy Nimmerman and Young O both look as though they're trying to get laps back. Rene Murray's down into pit lane. So let's reset this race with 111 laps scored complete. Tim Doyle is your race leader with Jeffrey Kohlbergen in 2nd, Mark Warrington in 4th, Gronales in 5th, Danley Ent in 6th.
It looks like Andrew Aiken just... I think he's saying he got a black flag. Some kind of penalty maybe in the pits. But it's interesting to note that now because of the caution, I don't think Tim Doyle wanted that caution because his teammate was coming up to help him out. Well, that's not going to pan out now because obviously if he gets the wave around, Young O's going to be right around to the back of the pack and have to work his way up again.
Correct.
So that's not going to be a lot of help.
Be interesting to see on this restart whether Tim Doyle can try and get the jump on Jeffrey Kohlbergen. Kohlbergen has been right with Tim Doyle for the last stint ever since he was forced to relinquish the lead to that number 11 Foyt Wines machine. But now that the field is going to be reset, then perhaps Mark Warmington might be able to join in with this battle for the top 3 once again, although we've lost Mark Fangman.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting to see what Mark Fangman does now that he's got to work his way up through the pack, because in the past we really haven't seen a lot of that. He slowly crept up there to get to that 3rd and 4th position. Let's see what happens going on in the race here. And once again, like you said, can Mark Warmington stay up into the top 3 and keep in that draft like they had for most of this race? So it's going to be interesting. And like I said, Jeffrey Kohlbergen, man on a mission. He's not going to be denied. He's right up on the rear wing of Tim Doyle, and he doesn't seem like he's going anywhere. He's definitely sending out a message today.
So,
I actually think...
Go
ahead, Will. No, go ahead.
I was going to say, we're going to go back to Green Flag Racing as we will have 113 laps shown complete here at Kentucky. 3 drivers got the wave around there. That was Young O, Jonathan Goke, and Juicy Nimmerman. Just to update you on the retirements, Lee Walker, Matthew Lamberton, Ease Warner, Philippe Lambert, and Brian Simpson are all classified as retired. So we have 16 cars running, 10 drivers on the league lap. couple of drivers one lap down. For Tim Doyle, though, this is going to be interesting as he's going to control the field back to green flag racing for the first time in this race. Pace car going to make the hard turn left down pit lane once again. It's a very hard turn. It's a sweep. It's almost like a chicane as it comes in. Tim Doyle bringing the field back to green flag racing, waiting. Now he goes back to green flag racing.
Looks like the yellow flag. Looks like we're under caution again.
Trying to figure
like
out what
caution on that restart.
Yeah, it almost looks as though immediately we were back to caution. Oh, sorry, multi-car crash in turn number 2. Multi-car crash in turn 2. I believe there was almost 4 drivers involved in that. You had Young O is involved. Mark Fangman is involved. Julien Pham just managed to get away from that.
Randy Crossno's involved.
Yeah, Randy Crossno T-boning Mark Fangman as Mark Fangman was going sideways. So it was, I believe, let's have a look back at it very quickly. You see that Young O running around the outside, getting held up there, but I won't say getting held up, but we had Julien Pham going slightly slower on the outside lane. As Young O checks stop, it looks as though there's a little bit of netcode between himself and Mark Fangman as they turned into the corner, and it just looked as though there's barely any contact. And then all of a sudden, Young O just veers left, and into all 3 of them goes. And disappointing for all 3 drivers. As Young O has been trying to make his way back to the field, Mark Fangman involved in 2 incidents in a matter of minutes. Mark Fangman's day is now going to be over, and for the championship leader, after riding in 3rd for a large portion of this race, his race is over now, and that's going to be incredibly disappointing for Mark Fangman.
Yeah, you know, who knows where his mental state was or what he was doing after that last incident he was in and what the situation. But like you said, he came up a little bit on the track and got into, you know, like you said, maybe net code, maybe something else, but they definitely got loose. And Young is still on the track. I don't know how much damage that he actually got, but he hit that wall pretty hard with the rear end of his car. Randy Crossno got it really bad too. He's been collected up twice now.
So we're going to have a look to see who comes down pit lane this time. You see Rene Murray just waiting for the pace car. He's going to have to go behind these drivers. We're going to bring just going to bring Jeffrey Kohlbergen into the booth. Oh my God, that was close there. What was that? Rene Murray almost collecting Tim Doyle. There's inches between them at that point there. But Jeffrey Kohlbergen currently sat in the 2nd position after leading for the first part of this race. He finally had to relinquish the lead to Tim Doyle, but you're doing a sterling job currently in that number 79 Aero X racing machine. Just how hard is this battle between you and Tim Doyle?
Hi Tim. Hi Tim. Hi Will. Well, yeah, the battle is I think not that hard. I'm not still giving everything that I've got. I think we are not even of the half of the race, so yeah, so far so good.
And we saw there that you were able to hold off Tim Doyle for a number of laps, and then finally once you managed to make the move down to the inside, almost as though, you know, you put a bit of pressure on but just allowed him to get past. Was that a case almost of seeing how much you could push towards the end of the race, seeing how he was on the bottom, setting it up for later on?
Yeah, that's indeed correct, Will.
And the way this race is looking at the moment, it does look as though this could end up being a timed race. How is that going to play into strategy, because of the fact we've got 1 hour and 2 minutes remaining in this race?
Well, then the first 45 minutes I'm trying to ease it a little bit off, and last 50 minutes, last 10 minutes, for me it's go time.
And was the fact we had 4 cautions in that first, you know, the first 50, 60 laps or so, did that make it difficult to keep momentum with some great drivers behind you? You know, Tim Doyle, Mark Fangman was there, Mark Warmington was there. How difficult was it to keep the pressure, you know, how difficult was it to keep the lead of that race, having to stop and start?
Yeah, that was I was of course busy to maintain the lead of this race, and yeah, when I saw Mark and Eves, for example, in my rear mirror, yeah, I virtual rear mirror, I definitely looked at it to see which positions they currently were driving and driving lanes.
So we're going to send you back to your teammates. Good luck for the rest of this race. It's going to be very interesting here at Kentucky, and wish you all the best.
Thank you very much. Bye bye.
So Jeffrey Kohlberg currently sat in the second position. Interesting, Doyle, how he said that he's not giving it all against Tim Doyle at the moment, and that makes it very interesting to see which one is going to be able to turn the wick up early on in this race. This battle between the two of them, that's going to intensify.
Yeah, you know, you always wonder about that he was racing pretty hard there for a while and then seemed to be content to fall back in, or whether he was just sizing them up, and whether he's actually just studying his line and figuring out where he might be able to take advantage. So it's really going to be interesting to see whether that is indeed true, that Jeffrey definitely, he may be sandbagging a little bit, waiting for the end, waiting for his opportunity, and we'll see how that race heats up at the end if he can maintain his current position. Of course, you've got Mark Warmington in there. We'll see if he can stay up there with the rest of those guys and see where he comes in, because he's definitely a strategy type racer too. So, you know, Mark really thinks through the race. So he may be have more than we're seeing as well.
And let's not forget, Mark Warmington is one of the best all-round drivers in the series. You know, very comfortable on both road and oval. And even though he's not had that many wins in the Afterburn IndyCar series, in fact, I'm not even sure if he has had a win, but he's always been there or thereabouts, and being able to, you know, put pressure on and get himself some very solid top 5 finishes.
Yeah, and you see that with some of the other racers in here. I mean, John Ailes, Andrew Aiken, Giorgio Ponte, Alan Wilson, Dave Jinks, Danley Inch. They're not the top names in racing as far as IndyCar and especially oval is concerned, but look at what they've done. They've managed to stay in the race. They're racing smart, you know, and they're moving up, still on the lead lap. Gaining positions. The pace car is in.
And we're back to green flag racing here once again at the Kentucky 400. Tim Doyle getting a nice jump there. About 4 car lengths between himself and Jeffrey Kohlberg in second. Mark Warmington in third. John Ailes in fourth. Andrew Aitken is currently moving himself up into the 5th position. As you see there, Dave Jinks looks like he's coming down pit lane. I believe he has to serve a penalty, so he's coming down pit lane momentarily. This is going to ruin his strategy here for Dave Jinks in that number 76 West USA car. However, looking through the field, Jonathan Goke is currently 10th, 1 lap down. So this is what we're saying now. Because of the number of incidents between these drivers, you see there Andrew Aitken going too wide with John Ailes down the back straightaway. Looks like he's going to get the job done up into the 4th position for Andrew Aitken. This has been a race of attrition so far, and it's a case of who can keep their car the cleanest. It's disappointing for some of these drivers though. You know, Mark Fang was racing really well early on in this race. Young O, he'd worked himself so hard to get himself back into this race. Randy Crossno likewise. And let's not forget we had Yves Warner and Matthew Lambertson, 2 contenders going into this race, who are out.
Yeah, and it almost makes you wonder if some of these guys are almost too aggressive and too racy for their own good. Because it seems like, you know, right out of the gate, it's like a sprint, and they're giving it everything they have. And especially in a race like this, it's definitely not a sprint; it's a marathon. So it's going to be interesting to see where it lines up, because there's a lot of big names and a lot of really fast racers that are now either laps down or out of the race completely.
So yeah, I have to ask you, as we're getting close towards the official halfway point of this race, who do you think is going to end up on top? Do you think that Jeffrey Kohlberg has something for Tim Doyle? Do you think Mark Warmington can, you know, get up through the field? I mean, Andrew Aitken looks as though he's very racy currently in the 4th position himself. If you had to pick someone now, who would it be?
Well, that tough call, Will. It's hard to say. I'm always rooting for Jeffrey Kohlberg, and obviously because we're teammates. But you know, I don't know whether he has something for Tim Doyle. Tim Doyle typically, once he's out front, it's kind of hard to beat. But I really can't pick anybody at this point in time because it's just too early in the race, and we've seen too many things for me to pick one, but I'm gonna root for Jeffrey Kohlberger for sure.
And if you'd like to get involved in the action, you can use the hashtag Afterburn on Twitter. Let us know who you think is going to be victorious towards the end of this race. Is it going to be Tim Doyle, Jeffrey Kohlberger and Mark Warmington? Can Andrew Aiken find a way to get back up to the lead pack and make his own charge? Is there someone else who might somehow be able to get their way back to the field? Use the hashtag Afterburn on Twitter and we'll read out your comments throughout the second portion of this race, as we are currently working lap 126 of 267. However, this race, unfortunately, due to the number of cautions earlier on in this race, is now a time race, and that's disappointing because we have more cautions than we'd normally see at this racetrack. And what that's meant is the race is going to drag on for too long, and with the 2 hour and 20 minute time limit here, that means that this race now is going to be through time, not through laps counted.
And on board with John Ailes there, he's looking at the rear wing of Andrew Aiken, who obviously overtook him a couple laps ago, and you can see through his eyes that the leaders are definitely pulling away, and you have to wonder, as fast as those cars are up front, do these guys really have any chance of pulling on the leaders, or are they hoping once again for another caution towards the end of the race so they can get up front, bunch the cars back up, and give them a shot?
To Jeffrey Kohlberger out front, putting a lot of pressure onto Tim Doyle, going down to the inside there. That was close between those two drivers. As Jeffrey Kohlberger looked to the inside, and he just clipped the apron. And I've seen that so many times here at Kentucky. If you clip that apron, all of a sudden your car just wants to go straight on up the banking. And good racing there by Kohlberger and Tim Doyle. Kohlberger getting out of the throttle, Doyle just giving enough room to avoid an incident. But very close racing between Kohlberger. He's looking racy. He looks like he wants the lead of this race back from Tim Doyle. He wants those bonus points as well, as currently I believe Tim Doyle is about 20 laps away from taking away those 2 bonus points from Jeffrey Kohlberger. He led the first portion of this race, and the gap, it's 17 laps is the difference now, like that 16 just a matter of a second's time. But the story of this race so far, it literally has been Kohlberger has been the star of the race so far, leading the green flag after Tim Doyle and Young O and Jonathan Goke all failed to take the green flag. It meant that Kohlberger was able to lead for the first quarter of this race, doing a sterling job, withholding pressure from Warmington, from Backmann, and then for a large period, Tim Doyle. But now Tim Doyle's out front. This is a very, very quick race up front. And you'd have to say, for that number 79 Eric's racing machine, he came in here as a dark horse after some disappointing performances on the road course. But right now, he's looking as though he is at least equal a match to Tim Doyle.
Yeah, Jeffrey keeps kind of looking inside and letting Tim Doyle know, hey, I'm still here. You're not going anywhere. So we'll see if that kind of gets up. Looking to the inside, looking to the inside, looking to the inside.
Very close coming into turn 3. Tim Doyle looks like he's just going to be able to sweep down into the corner there. But very close between those two drivers. And this is some great racing up front here.
And I think Jeffrey Kohlberger is now trying to get inside Tim Doyle's head right here. Like I say, just let me know, I'm still here, you're not going anywhere. We got Mark Warmington, who was right on the rear wing of Jeffrey Kohlberger, so he's kind of giving him a little push there. So it'll be interesting to see whether he does indeed get inside Tim's head and whether they hold the race together.
Sorry, I think Tim Doyle went to shift there, coming into the corner, and almost, Jeffrey Kohlberger almost ran into the back of him. But very, very close racing there. It did look as though Tim Doyle just missed the shift coming into the corner, and they were very, very lucky to avoid impact. And that has allowed Mark Warmington to close right back. Full position Andrew Aiken. He is now 4.7 seconds behind the race lead. Still got pressure from John Ailes. This is the battle for 4th and 5th position. With Giorgio Ponti currently sat in 6th. Danny Yench in 7th, Anna Wilson in 8th, Jonathan Goke in 9th, Renee Murray in 10th. As you see there, Anna Wilson just letting GC Nimmerman past him. GC Nimmerman is currently scored 4 laps down, but just, you know, he's trying to work his way through strategy, see if he can gain some places elsewhere.
And you got Jonathan Goke there. Even though he's laps down, he's working his way through John Ailes and Andrew Aiken to try to get up there in front, maybe give his teammate a little help there. So that's interesting. He's definitely got a lot of car left, and he's right through there. So I don't know if he's got enough time to catch his buddies, but he's definitely running on speed right now.
Side by side for the lead, Jeffrey Kohlbergen trying to make the move there on Tim Doyle in the number 11 machine. They were side by side for pretty much a lap. Tim Doyle is great at handling pressure though in that number 11 Fort Wayne machine. As we talked about, he runs a lot of the fixed out races. He's pretty much confirmed now as the fixed setup champion for 2012 season 1 in its second season. I believe he won it last season as well, so the undisputed champion so far on the oval side. So he's very good at handling pressure in various situations. For Tim Doyle, it does look as though he's got Jeffrey Kohlbergen putting ounces of pressure onto him. As Kohlbergen looking down to the inside again. Oh, he came up the racetrack there after clicking.
Well, here comes Mark Wormington on the inside there. Looks like he's going to get underneath Jeffrey Kohlbergen just a little bit. I think he backed off and let his teammate go there.
As Doyle Johnson has to go and make a phone call. Does look as though the top 3 drivers are battling a lot for position. And all it's going to take is for either Tim Doyle or Jeffrey Kohlbergen to make a tiny mistake, and that is going to give Mark Wormington the opportunity to pounce. I call Mark Wormington the calmest guy on iRacing, just because he thinks his way through races so much. And for Wormington, he knows when it's going to be time to pounce. And it's a case for Wormington of if he can just wait for a moment, and he can find himself in the race lead.
Pardon me, Will, that was a phone call from the race command that says, great battle up front.
Have they approved my application to put a sign on lane 2 of turn 4?
Absolutely. All you have to do is manage to get yourself out there without being killed.
Okay. So we're currently working lap 142 of 267. Just to confirm that this is now a timed race. We have about 50 minutes left of racing here at the Kentucky 400. So we have no idea exactly how many laps they're going to do. Setting ferocious pace out front at the moment. This race is still going to go a long way if it stays green. One of the things that Tim Doyle does have, however, in his pocketbook as a card he can pull out to dominate this race is he is immense coming down onto pit road. So for Tim Doyle, if we get green flag pit stops here, that is going to be his opportunity to open up a nice sizable gap to Kohlbergen and Wormington. And let's not say that Kohlbergen and Wormington are slouches here, but the good money will always be on Tim Doyle on a portion of green flag pit stops, especially as he has a lot of practice in the correct IndyCar rules of coming down off the apron, on the apron through the backstretch onto turn 3, rather than just diving down pit lane onto turn 4, as is the case sometimes in the iRacing official series. The way this pit stop is going to work is I believe we're only about 20 laps away from a round of green flag pit stops. It's going to be interesting to see who comes out on top, but the sake of money has got to be on Tim Doyle.
Yeah, I don't think we can count out Mark Wormington and Jeffrey Kohlbergen yet, but you are correct. Yeah, the statistics say, and history tells us that Tim Doyle is really good with his pit stops, but I think Jeffrey Kohlbergen is like on heightened awareness, and he's aware of that as well. So he's going to be very careful and try to make the best of his pit stop as well.
So, we are currently working lap 146 of 267 here at the Kentucky Speedway. The Kentucky 400 on Glacier TV. Will Vincent, Doyle Johnson in the booth for round 7 of the Afterburn IndyCar Series. Tim Doyle is your race leader. I believe he is very close, if not already, from taking away those 2 bonus points from Jeffrey Kohlbergen for leading the most laps, which is going to be heartbreaking for Kohlbergen, as he has had one of the best races of his Afterburn IndyCar Series career. And in fact, they are now 72 laps, and Tim Doyle now, there we are, the 2 bonus points go over to Tim Doyle. And as the championship progresses, in both the oval and combined championship, those bonus points really is, Doyle, what's going to make the difference between, you know, being first or being second in this championship.
Yeah, I think at this point in time, there's enough races under everybody's belt, both for the combined championship, the oval championship, and the road championship, that not everybody's showing up all the races, like you said, with the drop weeks involved. So I think it will come down to a tight finish at the end when you get into the chase for this particular series. Interesting enough, I think Mark Wormington is holding back considerably, because I've been watching his car, and he tends to pull up on Jeffrey Koolbergen and then kind of lays back a little bit more. I have a feeling as you get closer to the end of the race, Mark Wormington might just be a factor, maybe even racing Jeffrey Koolbergen. We'll see whether Mark lets those two battle it out up front, or whether he wants to come through and make a name for himself as well.
It does look as though Mark Wormington really is sitting back, waiting for the opportunity to pounce. A relentless pace is being set at the moment. These top three drivers of Tim Doyle, Jeffrey Koolbergen and Mark Wormington now 7 seconds ahead of the fourth place driver of Giant Ales, as they're going to come on to put a lap on Rene Murray in about 3 laps time. Dave Jinks is in danger of going down another lap as well, as we'd like to welcome Randy Crossno into the commentary booth to see there Rene Murray going pretty about slowly. It looks like he's going to come and get lapped in about 2 lap time actually. Randy Crossno, first of all, horrible end to your race there, being involved in that multi-car incident with Young O and Mark Fangman. Just take us through the perspective from your angle.
Well, I think from history, we had seen someone jump the start a bit, so I was kind of wary of that. So I started on the outside, and I had exactly 1 lane to the outside, and when I saw a car come flying up through there, I thought, if I don't move out of his way, he's going to run me over. So I gave him a little extra room. He went by me, but when we went into turn 1 there, to me it looked like he came down, and maybe the car in front, which I believe was Mark Feynman, came up a little bit, because we're on cold tires, and they got together, and it just basically took all 3 of us out.
And how disappointing is it to have your race end, so early on into the Kentucky 400 on a track that I know you love?
Well, I had a mishap that was all of my own doing earlier in the race, so yeah, I'm a little frustrated. I got back out. I was 2 laps down. I just wanted to run laps and finish, so I didn't want it to end that way. But you kind of create your own destiny, if you will, and I did that when I did a self spin. So things happen. It's called racing.
So Randy, tell us a little bit about. Obviously, I'm not sure everybody knows, but you're the team captain for AeroX Racing, and Jeffrey Koolbergen has run a great race up front. What kind of communications are you having with Jeffrey right now?
Well, actually, I'm not talking to Jeffrey. Jeffrey's really focused on staying right on Tim, as y'all can very well see. Now, there is a bit of a partnership between him and Mark Wormington in third, so I believe those two might get together and have something for Tim. It's always good to have a teammate or someone you're working with on the track, as we've seen with Tim and Young in the past. So we'll kind of see how it plays out. As I understand, and the drivers do as well, this is a timed race. Will, how much time do we have left in this race?
At the moment, we have, I need to do maths here on the fly, and dyslexic, this is always going to be fun. We have 43 minutes left of this race, so that's anything up to another 80 laps. So, depending on how many cautions we have in this, the last portion of this race, there's definitely going to be one more round of pit stops. But it's going to be interesting to see, if we were to get a caution now, then, let's touch wood that we don't, that we'd still have one more pit stop afterwards. But Randy, I believe you're going to stick around in the booth for the rest of this race. You're going to become the new Doyle Johnson, which means that you're going to have a lot more fun.
Okay, but just don't call me DJ. Will, I do believe they're coming up to pit here rather shortly.
Yes, we're going to have our first round of official green flag pit stops. The last time these drivers pitted would have been around lap 119, so we're going to get green flag pit stops in the next 10 laps or so. This is going to be interesting to see how much fuel these drivers take on this round of pit stops, to see how they're going to focus themselves towards the end of the race. We're currently working lap 160 of the Kentucky 400, which again, unfortunately now is a timed race due to regulations. You see Tim Doyle there getting held up a little bit there by Dave Jinks, getting a little bit of the draft, so he was able to just dive down the inside. Jeffrey Koolbergen doing the same as they come through turns 3 and 4. Koolbergen lost himself about a car length there to Tim Doyle. He's going to gain that back up as he sucks back up to the draft of Tim Doyle coming down into turn number 1. But Mark Warmington, he's got to be careful here that he doesn't lose the draft as they negotiate their way through traffic, going through us, Dave Jinks and then Alan Wilson in pretty much simultaneous fashion. And we say goodbye now to Doyle Johnson. He will be back next week for the Dover 250, which once again will be broadcast on Glacier TV. But Randy, I asked this question to Doyle earlier on, and now you're here. Tim Doyle, Jeffrey Kohlberg and Mark Warmington, who's going to end up in victory lane?
Well, my opinion would be extremely biased, but I'll go with Jeffrey Kohlbergen.
And as I said earlier, after a disappointing string of finishes on the road course, it's great to see Kohlbergen back to find his form on the ovals. I'm going to rename him Danica if he's not careful. Mark Warmington doing a sterling job in the third position. To run through the rest of your top 10, John Ailes is currently sat in the fourth spot, Andrew Aitken in fifth, Giorgio Ponti in sixth, Dan Liench in seventh, Alan Wilson in eighth, Jonathan Goke in ninth, Rene Murray rounding out your top 10, with Dave Jinks, Julian Pham, Shishi Ninneman 11th to 13th respectively. Retirements, Mark Fangman, Young O, Randy Crossno, Brian Simpson, Philippe Lambert, Yves Warner, Matthew Lambertson and Lee Walker. As it looks as though for the moment Tim Doyle's managed to get himself a couple of car lengths advantage. Just a tiny bit of breathing space from Jeffrey Kohlbergen, as it looks as though his tyres are going off just a little bit here in the last stages of this race. So it could just be the fact that, you know, Kohlbergen is waiting for this pit stop now to get some fresh rubber. And even though they have, you know, adjustments you can make to your car, to your front and your rear anti-roll bar and to your weight jacker, it gets to a point later on in the race that you're almost in between two settings that you can use. So you're either dreadfully tight on one setting or dreadfully loose on the other. And I'm sure that these drivers aren't going to want to throw away a good finish this late in the race.
No, you're absolutely correct. You know, Mark, you watch Mark Warmington there in third. It looks like he's going into the pits now, as a matter of fact.
So Mark Warmington comes down pit lane. We're cycling through first round of green flag pit stops here at the Kentucky 400. Mark Warmington's going to bring this car down to 45 miles an hour. Don't speed, getting it just there at the line. So Mark Warmington bringing the car down pit lane, 45 mile an hour speed limit. So slowly when you have drivers going 215 miles an hour around you. As Andrew Aitken's going to come down pit lane momentarily himself. Let's keep an eye on Mark Warmington as he cycles through his green flag round of pit stop. Going to bring it into his box nice and carefully now, stopping it perfectly on the marks. He's going to take 4 tyres and some Sunoco race gas.
We also had Tim Doyle announced pitting, Giorgio Ponti's pitting, and like you say, Andrew Aitken. I think everybody's going to be coming in here real quick.
And I tell you what, that was amazing entry there for Tim Doyle into pit lane, literally right on the border of what you can physically achieve, as he almost sped coming down pit lane himself. Jeffrey Kohlbergen inherits the race lead for just a couple of moments, as he surely will be pitting in the next couple of laps himself. This is where the track's always at its most dangerous, as you have cars coming down pit lane. Kohlbergen bringing it down into pit lane himself. Tim Doyle is back out onto the racetrack. And for Jeffrey Kohlbergen, he's going to have to bring it down. Slow it down, Jeffrey. Oh! That was very close. I'm not sure whether or not Jeffrey Kohlbergen might have got himself a speeding penalty there. We'll keep an eye on him. So, Tim Doyle has cycled through green flag pit stop. So is Mark Warmington. Dan Liench, I believe, is going to pit any moment now. He's going down pit lane himself. Keeping an eye on Jeffrey Kohlbergen. In fact, he does look as though he managed to get his car down properly. Tim Doyle out onto the racetrack. Very squirrely as he came out of pit lane. He's got to be very, very careful. As we see now, Shishi Ninneman, he's bringing the car down pit lane, getting it onto the grass. He's somehow managed to recover it there. Very lucky. The last thing he'd want to do is spear it back up onto the racetrack. Jonathan Goat into pit lane. Down the engine pit lane. Julian Pham in pit lane. So pretty much all drivers now cycling through green flag pit stops. As Tim Doyle re-inherits the race lead here at the Kentucky 400. Jeffrey Kohlbergen currently sat in the Jeffrey Kohlbergen sat in the second spot with Dan Liench. He's now cycled through his round of pit stops. With Jonathan Goke, he's now in pit lane. He Looks like he's just managed to get himself back out onto the racetrack. He's bringing it round this very slippery, slow apron. He's going to have to be very careful here as he brings the car out of pit lane. We're going to run through the field momentarily as we get ourselves back onto the last. We've still got one more pit stop, I think, left to go here, Randy.
Yeah, you know, when they cycled through the pits there, it looks like when they went in, Tim had about a 2-car length lead. It now looks like he's got about a 10 to 12 car length lead over Jeffrey Kohlbergen. And Mark Warmington has everything cycled through. Looks like Mark is about 5.5 seconds back.
Now Jeffrey Kohlbergen, he's been given a warning from race control. He has to lose 4 seconds, otherwise he would be given a black flag. Jeffrey Kohlbergen brought the car all the way onto the racetrack without waiting until the exit of turn 2 to do so. So Jeffrey Kohlbergen has to lose 4 seconds in the next couple of laps, otherwise he'll get himself a black flag. And you see there, he did a 28-second lap, so that is going to potentially satisfy race control. But that means that Tim Doyle now has the race lead in hand, and he's now got the chance to put away. That's disappointing for Kohlbergen, but just falling a little bit foul of the rules, but lucky that he didn't get himself a black flag there.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, he came out, he was probably around a second back. He's almost 5 seconds back now, and Mark Warmington's 5.4. So it's possible now that maybe Jeffrey and Mark can hook up, run together, and possibly run down Tim Doyle.
So Tim Doyle is your race leader here in the Kentucky 500. Jeffrey Kohlbergen is currently sat in the 2nd position, and Mark Warmington in 3rd, John Ailes in 4th, Andrew Aitken in the 5th spot, with Giorgio Ponti in 6th, Danny Ench in 7th, Jonathan Goke in 8th, Alan Wilson 9th, Rene Murray rounding out your top 10. And I tell you what, Tim Doyle really has been the class of the field, with Jeffrey Kohlbergen able to hold on until green flag pit stops, but Tim Doyle was just magical coming down into pit lane and really, really focused and committed coming back out onto the racetrack. So I think Tim Doyle there did a great job. And as I said earlier, he's used to doing these type of pit stops racing in other offline racing series like the BRR Fixed IndyCar series, which he's known for being one of the best drivers of. It just shows how the experience that you learn through different disciplines of racing really can come into play when it matters.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we all know Tim is, you know, when I want to learn how to do a pit stop, I'll look at recordings of his pit stops, and they are hard, almost impossible to duplicate. But I think what happened with Jeffrey there, he's, you know, not run a lot of league races, and in a normal environment, when you're out here racing and iRacing in an official series, you know, you can exit the pits as long as it's clear. You know, get back out on the track, and I think Jeffrey got caught up in the moment, and that's probably what happened to him. Rather unfortunate, but you know, rules are rules.
Rules are rules, and for you know, as the iRacing official series is racing at Michigan this week, this kind of thing, you dive off the track right at the last second, off turn number 4, you get back onto the track as quickly as possible, you get the job done. For Jeffrey Kohlbergen, possibly, you know, moving from series to series, these kind of moments can happen. But I tell you what, who's in a strong position? John Ailes currently riding in the 4th position. Andrew Aitken managed to pretty much keep with him all the way through that sequence of green flag pit stops. But John Ailes and Andrew Aitken, they're having a great drive, currently riding in the 4th and 5th positions respectively.
Yes, they are, and I wasn't here for the first part of the broadcast, but while in the race, Andrew Aitken got caught out with a black flag that I really don't think he could have avoided. It was kind of an odd situation, but he's worked his way back up. He's on the lead lap and doing rather well.
And let's not forget that Giorgio Ponti is riding in the 6th position in that 00 San Espira TNT racing machine. He's doing a great job in that 6th spot. Dan Lienz is currently in 7th. Jonathan Goke in 8th. Even though he's pinned 1 lap down, he's been able to use things to his advantage to try and get himself, you know, a top 10 finishing position. And then Wilson, he's in the 9th spot, with Rene Murray in the 10th. Dave Jinks in 11th, Julian Pham in 12th. Some of these drivers suffered a little bit through black flag speeding penalties and the line penalties throughout this race. And it does go to show how, you know, it's not always who's the fastest driver on the racetrack. It's those who can, you know, survive making those critical mistakes. There's, you know, a pit lane speeding penalty, that's going to cost you 15 seconds in the race. That's almost going to put you a lap down instantly. And if you get yourself a green flag, black flag penalty, it's pretty much even worse, Randy.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. You know, you need to be fast, but you know, you also need to be thinking the whole time. And on these long races like this, you know, you get so involved with racing, you want to get back out on the track. Absolutely, that is a normal thing that can happen that you wish to avoid. You know, Will, it looks like Jeffrey and Mark have hooked up on the track now. They're only about 3/10 apart, so let's see if they can drive their way back up and maybe catch Tim. We'll make a race out of this.
But 5.4 seconds, that is going to be a very, very hard feat to do. Having a look through the lap time, Jeffrey Kohlbergen last time by a 24.715. Now when you consider the times that Tim Doyle is doing currently, a 24.739, but he's using this traffic really well to his advantage. You know, getting the draft where he needs to, running the lines perfectly, and I think on paper, Tim Doyle is able to pull away from these two drivers by himself. He's really stepped up to the plate. We've got ourselves about half an hour left to go in this race. Tim Doyle realises this is his time to drive away. There could potentially be one more round of green flag pit stops before this race is over. Let's get myself as much of a cushion as possible in case of any eventualities.
Or dare we say that there's a caution for debris? I'm sure that's what Jeffrey and Mark are hoping for.
The NASCAR caution for debris. And thankfully this is IndyCar, so we don't really have debris cautions. But Tim Doyle will want this race to go green to the end. He's done a sterling job in the last, you know, 70, 80 laps of taking the lead, retaining the lead through a caution series of pit stops, and then that green flag round of pit stops completely dominant there. So Tim Doyle is in command of this race. Even though he's lost his teammate Youngo in this race earlier on, I'm sure that if these two were together on the track, we'll be talking about them being 15, 20 seconds ahead. As when O and Tim Doyle hook up together, they are pretty much unstoppable. But for Jeffrey Kohlberg and Mark Warmington, I think it's a case of damage limitation now. Get themselves a nice solid second and third position in this race. You know, try and ride it out to the end. I doubt that strategy is really going to be an option. You know, we've still got 28 minutes left of this race. That equates to one green flag round of pit stop. So unless something happens now, all you try is going to have to come down pit lane again. And let's not forget, we saw last time how dominant Tim Doyle was. It's only going to be the same story again if there's another round of green flag pit stops.
Yeah, it could very well be. You know, Tim's only about 2 seconds behind putting a lap on 5th place Andrew Aitken, and he's about 3 seconds shy of putting 4th place John Ailes a lap down. So in a few laps, it looks like we may just have 3 gentlemen on the lead lap.
And when you consider, you know, how some of these drivers who have retired from the race would have fitted in, let's not forget, Yves Warner was really, really strong at the start of this race. You had Matthew Lambertson, who's always a good driver here at Kentucky. Then you have Young O, who actually has the fastest lap of the race today with 24.463. Tim Doyle's fastest lap at 24.508. Now, even though this is a draft track, so you can gain a lot of track by using your car placement in the draft, that goes to show how Young O could have been a really big factor in this race had he have not had the misfortunes he had earlier on.
Yeah, that's very true.
Meanwhile, we are currently working lap 193 here at the Kentucky 400 on Glacier TV. Will Vincent and now Randy Crossno in the booth. Randy Crossno, unfortunately, forced to retire early on in this race, making a guest appearance to the commentary booth here for the Afterburn IndyCar series. Doyle Johnson had to go in, I don't know, DJ or something. So he'll be back next week. Next week we'll be going to Dover for the Dover 250 round 8 of the Afterburn IndyCar Series, our second of 3 oval races on the trot. The week after we'll be going to Pocono for the Pocono 250. And let's not forget, on May the 6th we have the MenCap Endurance Challenge. The MenCap Endurance Challenge will be 165 laps of the Brands Hatch Indy Circuit, raising money for MenCap, a charity that deals with learning disabilities. You can find out more information of that and the entire Afterburn IndyCar Series at teamafterburn.com. So Randy, now this race has settled down, it's become really a matter of, you know, who can find a driving partner to work with, who can find something, you know, a little bit of speed, who's got a car who can run well by themselves. Because look at Tim Doyle, he's not got any drafting help, but he's still either static or pulling away from Jeffrey Kohlbergen and Mark Warrington in the number 79 and 17 cars respectively. So it's a really, really impressive drive by Tim Doyle in the second half of this race. And I have to say though, John Ailes has managed to break away by 2 seconds now from Andrew Aitken in the battle for the 4th position. Jonathan Goke is currently working in the 8th spot. His next victim is Stanley Ench, who is about 8 seconds ahead of him. Jonathan Goke is trying to charge him down, gaining at about 1/10 of a second a lap, so he's going to need to make the advantage work through the next series of pit stops, if indeed there is one. Meanwhile, the battle going on is Julian Pham and Anna Wilson. This is not for position. Anna Wilson is currently only 2 laps down. Julian Pham is 4 after being involved in incidents earlier on in this race. Now this field spread out. Only 4 drivers remain on the lead lap, but Jonathan Ailes is looking as though he could go down a lap in about 4 or 5 laps time as Andrew Aitken goes down lap there to Tim Doyle. So Andrew Aitken is currently running in the 5th position, but he is a lap down. If he can hook onto the back of Tim Doyle, this will be interesting to see whether or not he can get himself back up to John Ailes. As Randy, we saw earlier on that Andrew Aitken had a pretty good car in the draft.
Yeah, he was running real well. Depending on his setup might be conducive to be a little slower at the tail end of a run, but yet faster in the beginning or the middle part of a run. So, you know, we'll have to see how that plays out for him. But there are 4 gentlemen that are 1 lap down that are going to kind of have a race within a race, if you will. We'll see Andrew, Giorgio, Dan Leink, and Jonathan Goke. We'll see where those 4 guys end up as they go through, another 20 minutes or so, Will?
Well, yeah, we've got 23 minutes left remaining in this race. Giorgio Ponti is only about 2 seconds ahead of down the end. That is your battle for 6th position. And let's not forget, Jonathan Goke is about 7 seconds behind. So as Jonathan Goke comes up to put a lap on Rene Murray, it was going to be a case now of can Jonathan Goke try and claw his way up to a better finishing position. As the driver coming down pit lane, that is Alan Wilson in the number 55 Club England machine. He is coming down. This will be his final pit stop. I see Jeffrey Kohlbergen putting a lap on Giorgio Ponti in the number 00 machine. And Jonathan Goke, I believe he might be making that turn down towards pit lane momentarily, keeping an eye out on him, as Jonathan Goke is currently riding in the 8th position in that 08 machine. Jeffrey Kohlbergen doing a sterling job still in the 2nd position. He's managed to put away a little bit from Mark Warrington again. John Ailes is doing a great job, one of the best performances of the race in that 4th position. He will be going down a lap to Tim Doyle in about 5 laps time should things stay as they are on the racetrack. And Randy, one of the important things is, as you're a driver, you know, who's at risk of being put a lap down, the last thing you want to do is go down a lap and have the caution come out a lap later. If you can fight to stay on this lead lap, that's something that you really do have to try and do.
Oh, absolutely. There's only one thing worse than going a lap down, and that would be taking out the leader, because then you and the leader are going to be more than 1 lap down. So, yeah, you want to stay in front, but boy, you know, you just want to be careful and make sure that you don't cause an accident.
And one of the things about Kentucky Raceway Speedway is, with the 14 degrees of banking and the fact that it is pretty wide for a 1.5 mile oval, the way the banking and the track lane spread out, you can run and, you know, put pressure to stay on the lead lap without really causing too much incident to another driver. But as these, you know, fuel runs carry on, as these drivers have to work through, you know, tyre wear and fuel wear, you've got to be careful. You know, you don't brush up a lane as you're being put down a lap, or you don't brush up and, you know, collect another driver, because this is a very difficult racetrack. While some of them was literally a case of sit down and drive 55 laps, put some fuel in, carry on, this track you really do have to nurse your car through a green flag fuel run.
Yes, and you know, you're talking about going a lap down in road racing. When the leader comes up, it's a given. You're going to let that leader go by, because there are really no, or hardly ever, a full course caution on the roadside. But here in oval, if you can stay on that lead lap in front of the leader and a caution comes out, you know, you're good to go to come back around, catch up, and make your pit. So that's why you see a little bit of a difference between the road and oval.
John Ailes putting a lap on Dave Jinks. That is going to help John Ailes a little bit. It's just going to give him another probably.
Oh, we got someone in the wall, Will.
Car in the wall. That is down the end. Trying to bring it down pit lane. That was very close there to collecting. He's trying to bring it down to pit lane. Very running over the grass a little bit there. We're staying under green flag racing for the time being. So all these drivers are going to be thankful for that, especially Tim Doyle, as he now puts that lap on Dave Jinks. Next victim for him is going to be John Ailes. So Daniel Yanks is going to be disappointed. He is riding in the 8th position at the moment. He's now going to lose a spot to Rene Murray, Dave Jinks and Julian Fan. So we've got ourselves 19 minutes left to go of the Kentucky 400 here on Glacier TV. Unfortunately, this has become a time race due to the time limit imposed for these oval races. The only races that get a longer time limit are the Indianapolis race later on this season and the Michigan 600. Don't forget, there will be an announcement made about the Indianapolis race, which is held on the second weekend of September each year. You'll find out more information about that from teamafterburn.com later on this week. Tim Doyle is still your race leader here at Kentucky. Jeffrey Kohlbergen currently running in the 2nd position. Mark Warmington in 3rd. John Ailes has now gone down a lap to Tim Doyle. So that means we have only 3 cars remaining on the lead lap. But we've still got one more round of green flag pit stops. So if any of these drivers get a speeding penalty in pit lane, you don't know what's going to happen. As we believe Jeffrey Kohlbergen just touched the wall a little bit about a lap and a half ago. Looks like his car is fine for the time being. Having a look at his lap times to see if there's any difference to them. No, his lap times, in fact, they got a little bit faster. So Jeffrey Kohlbergen still working in that 2nd position. Fatigue, I mean, we've done over 300 miles now. Yeah, we've done over 300 miles now, Randy. So while I'm getting tired up in the commentary booth, some of these drivers who have to be working their backsides off for 216 laps, these drivers are going to start getting tired, and some little mistakes in this last round of green flag pit stops could come into play.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you know, like you say, you need to maintain your focus. And by the way, we've got Mark Warmington, who came in to make a pit, and he's on his way out as we speak.
So Mark Warmington, he's going to have to hold the apron. He doesn't want to have to lose time like Jeffrey Kohlbergen did earlier on. Bringing the car around that apron very, very slowly, tentatively. Now he can get back onto the racetrack. And he is got Andrew Aitken. Doesn't look as though Aitken's going to be able to get past him. Mark Warmington giving a little bit of room just in case. Aitken getting very close, moving up to the high side there. So it does look as though he is going to overtake Mark Warmington just for the moment. However, Mark Warmington just probably wants to keep his tyres nice and cool, so warming up nicely and not have to worry about the incidents that plagued this race earlier on. As Randy, as a driver who has been involved in incidents here at this race, that 2nd lane in turn 4, it's a very, very difficult part of the racetrack as the banking falls away, and it's been probably the biggest incident point on this racetrack.
Yeah, absolutely. If you go in and you're a little bit too low, and you downshift and get on the gas just wrong, you will spin around. And it's a tough one. If you go in high, you got some bumps up there, so you're kind of threading the needle through that turn 4, especially with old greasy tires.
And luckily for Jeffrey Kohlbergen, for Mark Warmington, he managed to get out about a lap behind, exactly a lap behind Jeffrey Kohlbergen. So that meant that he was able to kind of keep that draft a little bit. So that will help him for the remainder of this race. As Andrew Aitken now bringing the car down pit lane. He's currently riding in the fourth position. He's going to lose one position, of course, to Mark Warmington, as he will re-inherit third position, hopefully later on. Really bringing the car down. Tim Doyle, I believe, he's going to come down pit lane this time by, and breathtaking every time Tim Doyle manages to bring that car down pit lane. He really does do the absolute limit of car control as he brings the car down to 45 miles an hour, just getting it down below the speed limit there. That was crazy of how close he was, as we have got ourselves 15 minutes now left of this race. So it's going to be a case of the later you come in, the less fuel you have to take, so your pit time could be quicker even. So Andrew Aitken bringing that car back onto the racetrack. He's holding that apron nicely to the left-hand side. One of the things about this apron we haven't talked about is it literally is one car wide. Even though there's another half a car length from the inside, you do not want to get your left-hand side tyres on the kind of dirty, dusty bit on that left-hand side of the apron, as you will just spear it into the wall. And Randy, it's one of those things that you have to be aware of, as Jeffrey Kohlbergen is down into pit lane for his final stop. It's going to be interesting how he feeds in relation to Mark Warmington.
Yeah, and I just watched Tim come back out on the track after his pit stop. Again, flawless execution on the in-lap and the out-lap. And that's where you can make up some time on these races.
So Jeffrey Kohlbergen coming out of pit lane. Hopefully he'll remember this time to keep it on the apron until he gets out of turn number 2. Again, you have to hold it almost on that yellow line on the outside. Single car, complete car control needed. Now Kohlbergen can blend out onto the racetrack. And this time, he's not going to get himself any form of a penalty. But it's going to be interesting to see how much further behind Tim Doyle is. And this is going to be interesting to see how dominant Tim Doyle is on pit road. It was about 6.1 seconds. Now, the gap is up to 10.3 seconds. Tim Doyle can gain 4 seconds in a sequence of green flag pit stops. Incredible.
Boy, and unfortunately, it looks like UC Neiman, and he ran it out of gas, and he was coasting through 3 and 4 in pit lane, going. Hopefully, he can make it to his pit stop. When you run out of gas, you got to stop it just right.
Yeah, Neiman. Oh no! I think he was just a tiny bit short there. That is. We're talking about a foot away from being able to get his service. That is going to be disappointing for Jussi Nuremberg. He's going to fall back into the 12th position. Julian Pham coming down pit lane this time by from the 10th spot, I believe. And one of the things is, if you don't make it into pit lane, you know, if you miss your pit entry, you have to go all the way around the racetrack again. And that is what makes these races so difficult, because you have to know your pit in. And if you don't, you're either going to get yourself a black flag and lose a lap, or you're going to run out of fuel and potentially lose a lap.
Yeah, absolutely. And as the time winds down, it looks like Jeffrey Kohlbergen and Mark Warmington have found themselves on the racetrack next to each other again. So even though they are somewhat what you call teammates, I believe they'll both be racing really hard for that second position.
Yeah, there is a good working relationship between ARX Racing and Team Afterburn. But this is, Mark Warmington's done 227 laps of this race. So now is his time to try and, charge down Kohlbergen if at all possible. Lost himself about a couple of car lengths on that last lap. Mark Warmington looks like he's trying to take it a bit easy. Maybe put a little bit too little fuel in the car, as he only did a 24.8 last time by. And one of the things that these drivers have to be careful is that they make sure they take enough fuel. Because of the fact that it's a timed race, you don't know exactly how many laps it is, so you're going to have to work with your crew chief very closely, doing all forms of calculations in your head to make sure you take enough fuel to make it to the end.
Yeah, it'd be nothing worse than to have this long race and come up one lap short. Boy, that would just be disheartening beyond belief.
Oh yeah, completely. Tim, so run through your top 5. Tim Doyle is your race leader. Jeffrey Kohlberger in second, putting a lap on John Ailes. Mark Warmington is in third. John Ailes is currently sat in the 4th position, with Andrew Aitken in 5th. And then to round out your top 10, Jonathan Gope, Giorgio Ponti, Alan Wilson, Rene Murray and Julian Pham. And Mark Warmington now, he's putting a lap on John Ailes in the number 14 Old Spice car. It does look as though at the moment Warmington has nothing for Jeffrey Kohlberger. This is probably the biggest battle on the racetrack at the moment, the battle for this 2nd position. And it does look as though Warmington's either having to take it very easy, or he just hasn't got the speed this late in the race. I mean, last time by, Kohlberger did a 24.677, while Warmington only a 24.86. So whether Warmington's just not happy with this set of Firestone Firehawks, or the fact he is having to save himself some fuel, it's going to be really, really interesting to find out what that, why Warmington can't put that pressure onto Kohlberger.
Yeah, and the other third option that you just spoke of, Will, would be that maybe he's realized he doesn't have anything for Jeffrey. He can't get by Jeffrey, and so he's just backing her down, just going to take the 3rd spot in the podium and be content with that, as we have just a few minutes left. Is that about right?
We have 9.5 minutes left of this race, currently working lap 233. So if we do all the math, it looks as though this race is only going to go about 5 or 10 laps less of its original scheduled distance, which it's added a whole new element in, but it is disappointing not to see the full 400 miles run in this race. However, Tim Doyle has been dominant here so far. So he's done a great job in that number 11 Fort Wines machine. Jeffrey Kohlberger still sat in the 2nd position, Mark Warmington in 3rd, John Ailes in 4th. And let's not forget, John Ailes and Andrew Aitken, they've done a great job securing themselves at the moment a top 5 finishing position.
Yes, they have. You know, Jonathan Gope fell a couple laps behind earlier in the race and got one back. He's 1 lap behind. About 6 laps ago, he was about 6 seconds behind Andrew Aitken, being 1 lap down, and now he's worked out to, I believe it's just under 5 seconds as I'm looking at the screen here. So I don't know if there's enough time, but Jonathan is definitely making a run towards Andrew to see if he can catch him and maybe snag that 5th position.
So Jonathan Gope is charging at the moment. Last time by 24.632. Let's have a look at his lap. He comes past the stripe once again. 24.687. In relation, Andrew Aitken currently in 5th position in that number 27 car at 24.979. And when we compare Andrew Aitken laps to earlier, he is going about 0.2 of a lap slower. So maybe Aitken is having fuel issues here. Maybe Aitken needs to eke out half a lap of fuel here or there to come past the stripe again at 24.9. So is Andrew Aitken in danger of running out of fuel here?
Could very well be. You know, and when you're chasing someone like John is chasing Andrew, and then all of a sudden you can see him as he's about 3/4 of a straightaway from him, that's like the old proverbial carrot, and the rabbit sees it, and John's he's up on the wheel. Trust me.
So 238 laps are scored as complete here in the Kentucky 400. Tim Doyle is your race leader, and he has obviously also scored the bonus points for the most laps led. Young O, despite the fact he has retired from this race, has got the qualifying bonus points, and I believe that he still has the fastest race lap as well. Just going to see if we confirm that momentarily. But this is for Tim Doyle, unless he can get himself, you know, a bit of a draft these last couple of laps, it does look as though he's only going to get the 2 bonus points for leading the most laps, and that's going to be interesting for him in the championship hunt, as he might have wanted a couple more just to ensure a bit of safety.
You know, and while we were looking at the difference on the track between Jonathan and Andrew, we've got Mark Warmington coming back up to Jeffrey. They're only separated by a couple of tenths, which is about maybe 2-3 car lengths. So we might have 2 races here going on within the race for position.
Yeah, Andrew Aitken last time by a 25.028. The lap before, 25.136. Andrew Aitken certainly must be trying to save fuel in these last couple of laps. and this is allowing Jonathan Goke to get ever so slightly closer. He's going to be putting a lap on Rene Murray any time now, and he can now see Andrew Aitken only about 3.5 seconds ahead of him. If he can put that pressure on Aitken for the rest of this race, he can try and force Aitken to go a little bit faster. And if Aitken can't make it to the flag, this is a good tactic for Goat. Press hard, knowing that you've got the fuel on the tank and the driver ahead of you, he's having to do fuel calculations in his head all the time. If you can press him a little bit too much, they could run out before the end of this race.
It all comes down to your guy in the pits. Did he give you the right advice with the right fuel? I mean, if you have too much fuel, you're going to be slower. If you have not enough fuel, you're not going to finish it, or you got to slow down, as we may be seeing. So it's kind of critical that near the end of this race, especially a time race, that you've got someone there to give you a hand with it.
Tim Doyle just put another lap on Giorgio Ponti. Giorgio Ponti currently riding in the 7th position. He is 2 laps down through this long sequence of green flag run we've had. Whilst the start of this race was littered with cautions, we had 4 cautions in the first 60 laps. This last part of the race has gone green for a very, very long time. I believe it's actually the 3rd longest green flag run in Afterburn IndyCar Series history after the Michigan 500 last year, and obviously the 208 lap marathon at Texas Motor Speedway back last season. So once this race settled down, these drivers really have been able to keep it going for, looking at my watch, it's about 100 and, yeah, almost about 135 laps, 135 laps. There's Randy Crossno trying to get his calculator out to prove me wrong. Andrew Aitken now has got Jonathan Goke 2 seconds behind him. We have got 5 minutes left of this race, and Jonathan Goke is going 3/10 of a lap faster than Andrew Aitken in the battle for the 5th position. So the time we have remaining, Jonathan Goke could get on to the back of Andrew Aitken, and if Aitken is running out of fuel, this could be interesting. Jonathan Goke could salvage a 5th position here after being caught at pretty much a lap down for this entire race. Had Jonathan Goke not have had early incidents, he could have been fighting for the win here, as he's setting some storming lap times in this last stint. 24.6s all stint long, pretty much. And when you compare that to your race leader Tim Doyle is pretty much comparable. They are pretty much the 2 fastest drivers on the racetrack. The battle for the 2nd position, Jeffrey Kohlbergen and Mark Warmington, they are going faster only because of the fact they have the draft between them. Mark Warmington, only a car length behind, keeps on making those peaks to the inside. And can Warmington try and close down?
I'm sorry, Will, but it looks like John Ailes put it in the wall, as Jonathan Goke is pulled within a couple of car lengths of Andrew. I don't know. Oh, the yellow flag's out.
This is heartbreaking for Jonathan Goke, as we've only got 3 minutes left of this race. This race will end under the caution flag. So Jonathan Goke, after getting himself so close, has Aitken got enough fuel to make it to the end? He's still going to have to complete this race. And you see here, Aitken already literally putting the clutch in, trying to save every bit of fuel possible. This field's going to take a couple of laps to get together. Jonathan Goke is going to get himself to top 5 position because John Ailes puts it into the wall. But now, will Goke be able to get 4th? Will Andrew Aitken have enough fuel to make it to the end? So I'm having a look back at that incident with John Ailes in the number 14 Old Spice car, and it looked as though, yet again, on the seam, for once it was the 3rd lane, not the 2nd, just catching the outside seam, getting the car loose into the wall, tried keeping it there, tried making the caution not come out, but unfortunately his race is done. And that's going to be heartbreaking for John Ailes, as he's running in the top 5 for quite a long period of this race, as Tim Doyle, I believe, has come down pit lane.
He must not be aware of the time left.
Tim Doyle is coming down pit lane. We've got a minute and a half left of this race. Tim Doyle must not have had enough fuel. This is crazy here for Tim Doyle. He's going to lose himself the win. Jeffrey Kohlbergen looks as though he could end up winning this race, as he's going to feed back into the third position. Was Tim Doyle going to have to make one more stop? So we've got drama here, and we've...
Yeah, looking at the clock, there's only 1 minute left.
Yeah, so we're going to get white flag next time by. Tim Doyle obviously didn't have enough fuel to make it to the end. Drama here at the end of the Kentucky 400, and Jeffrey Kohlbergen could end up as your race winner. So Jeffrey Kohlbergen, we're keeping an eye on him and Mark Warmington. We've got to make sure our timing is correct here. But this is interesting. We're having a look at the time and seeing just how much left there is of this race. We're hitting 2 minutes and 20 minutes in about 10 seconds time. So in theory, the white flag should be in air. This time by Jeffrey Kohlbergen could end up being the race winner. You see a couple of drivers coming down pit lane. That is Dave Jinks coming down pit lane. And this is going to be the white flag in air. Could Tim Doyle have won this race for a timing miscalculation?
In spectator chat, it looks like they think there may be extra time left, Will. I'm not sure. I'm not clear on this. Can you explain?
Okay, so it looks as though we actually have 3 minutes left of this race. Our timing has got ourselves a little bit confused here. We're just having a talk to the crew chief for Team Afterburn, and this is drama-packed for the last couple of laps. Has Kohlbergen got enough fuel? Has Warmington got enough fuel? Has Tim Doyle actually just made the biggest gamble of his life, and he's going to try and take the win? I actually don't know what to say. Apparently it looks like everyone's got fuel. Tim Doyle is going to have, what, 1 lap, 2 laps? We've still got ourselves at least 1 more lap of caution. So we're going to have ourselves possibly about a 5-lap shootout maximum to complete the Kentucky 400. Randy, I'm confused.
Well, that's the problem. We don't have too many of these races that end up being a timed race. Again, my clock shows 2:21 elapsed time, so I'm not sure where the extra time is coming from. I honestly don't know.
So points to note: Giorgio Ponti and Alan Wilson and John Ailes, they are all going to get the wave around when the pace car turns its lights off, which it does now. So Giorgio Ponti and Alan Wilson and John Ailes, they are all going to get the wave around. Jeffrey Kohlbergen is leading this race, and we are going to go back to green flag racing here at Kentucky with Mark Warmington in second. Jonathan Goke in third. Jonathan Goke is lining up third in line with Julian Pham, Rene Murray, Dave Jinks, Andrew Aitken. Tim Doyle is currently sat 7th, 8th in line, and this is going to be a very interesting end to this race.
Yeah, you got Tim Doyle on fresh rubber, starting from the back of the pack. Jeffrey on old up front, and there is about 6 cars in between those two, and Mark Warmington being one of them in second place. This is going to be very interesting. This is going to be one heck of a shootout. Get your video recorders ready.
So Tim Doyle is going to have to get around all of these drivers. This is where the rulebook could really come into play. Tim Doyle will probably know this rulebook as well as everyone. He will know that he has the opportunity to just try and drive around the outside of people. You already see he's running the 3rd lane of this racetrack. Andrew Aitken also running the 3rd lane. These drivers, this could end up going completely crazy in the last couple of laps of this race. Because by my watch, we're going to have ourselves a 3-lap shootout here at the Kentucky 400. And Pace car makes a turn down pit lane. Jeffrey Kohlbergen, he's going to bring the field up to green flag racing. We are back to green flag racing here. The Kentucky 4-1. Mark Wilmington getting his spinning around. He's going to be hit by the... Oh my God, big pile up there. I cannot believe it. Mark Wilmington spinning the tyres. Caution out on the speedway. Drama at the end of the Kentucky 400 as Mark Wilmington spinning in the tyres as he tries to get himself up to speed. Getting it twice as he puts the power down. He gets T-boned by Julian Pham, and carnage ensuing behind him as Julian Pham, he then gets wrecked out. Tim Doyle gets hit. Dave Jinks, I believe, involved. Drama. I cannot believe this. This is one of the craziest finishes we've had in a long time. This, I believe, could match that from the Mosport race earlier this season. And Randy, crazy restart there. Mark
most unfortunate. On those old tires, Mark just probably spun the tires and got sideways. In the ensuing collision that appeared, it looked like Tim was able to get on the binders hard enough to where he didn't get damaged. So Tim's still on the track, so it looks like Jeffrey's going to win. You're going to have Tim Doyle in second, and we'll see where the rest of that plays out.
So hopefully we'll get ourselves a replay momentarily, but coming back to green flag racing, Mark Wilmington was sat in the second position. He tried putting the power down. So the first time he tried doing it, the car just tried snapping to the right. He caught it, and then as he tried to put the power down again, the car just, spun to the left-hand side. All the drivers around him had nothing to do, and a horrible end to the Kentucky 400 here. Jeffrey Kohlbergen is going to be credited with the race win by the look of it, as is Jeffrey Kohlbergen out of fuel? No, sorry, I believe that he had to just let Mark Wilmington get past him. So Jeffrey Kohlbergen is going to come down to collect the checkered flag here.
And what's interesting, Tim Doyle pulled off into the pits in front of the field. I'm confused here.
Drama at the end of the Kentucky 400, and this is going to have to be looked at by race control very, very carefully. It looks as though Tim Doyle has been credited for the race win because he came down pit lane.
But is that a loophole in the rules or a loophole with a bug with iRacing? That's interesting.
I am completely and utterly confused. All the time they're saying two different things. I'm going to have a look at the race results momentarily, but it looks as though as they came down, it does look as though Mark Wilmington had damage, of course, to his race car, so he was just trying to make it past the start-finish line. Jeffrey Kohlbergen was sat behind him, and this is mental. Race control is going to have to sit down and look at this one, so keep an eye out on teamafterburn.com. We are going to have a very long, hard look at the end of this race. Crazy finish here to the Kentucky 400. I have not seen anything like this in my life. It does look as though on the racetrack, Jeffrey Kohlbergen should be classified as the race winner. The timing and scoring show Tim Doyle as race winner. I'm having a look back to see exactly what point reason for Tim Doyle putting down pit lane. Now, we will get back to this in a couple of moments' time. Randy, confusion ensuing here.
Yeah, I'm still confused, but I really believe that Jeffrey came in first and Tim Doyle will get second.
Thanks, Joe.
Once everything is looked at, because the field had slowed down, waiting for the pace car or waiting for someone who had crashed. I'm not sure, and so we'll see what's going on here.
So to run through the last part of this race, we have shown 255 of the 267 laps shown complete. The reason for 255 laps is because of the fact that the race, due to the number of cautions early on in the race, meant that the race wouldn't be completed within the 2 hour and 20 minute time limit. Now, we had a caution with just literally a couple of minutes left remaining. We go back to green flag racing. Mark Wilmington gets the car, tries to put the power down in his car, speeds it to the right, tries to control it, and as he puts the power down again, on old tyres, the car spins back to the left. A multi-car wreck ensues, and what this meant was that about half the remaining field involved in the wreck, and as the field comes down to finish the end of the race, it looks as though Tim Doyle just brought the car down into pit lane, thinking, okay, I can just, there's only one other car on the lead lap, and that's Koolbergen. I'll finish second. But because Mark Warmington was going so slowly on track, officially, it looks as though Tim Doyle scored as the race winner, but Jeffrey Koolbergen should have been the first to pass the line. And it's simply just because of the way the timing beams are that has caused this confusion. So race control is having a very long look through this to run through the rest of the results. Third position, Andrew Aitken. Fourth position, Giorgio Ponti. In fifth, Mark Warmington. Jonathan Goke finishes in the sixth spot. John Ailes in seventh. Alan Wilson in eighth. Julian Pham in ninth. And Rene Murray in the 10th spot. Danny Yench in 11th. Mark Fangman. So, with Dave Jinks in 11th. Jussi Nimmerman in 12th. Danny Yench in 13th. And then Mark Fangman, Young O, Randy Crossno, Brian Simpson, Philippe Lambert. He's won Matthew Lambertson and Lee Walker as the rest of the drivers in retiring. We're going to bring down Jeffrey Koolbergen into the booth momentarily. Jeffrey, craziest finish of the race. And take us through what happened from your angle and what caused you to, from being officially the race winner to being classified in second.
I really don't know, Will. I really don't know.
And coming to the checkered flag, I'm guessing that Mark Warmington ahead of you had was going slowly. Take us through that moment.
Yeah, he had to, I think, well, I'm not sure, but a car, he had to let the car by, so we were waiting for that car. So, yeah, and iRacing was telling me that I should stay behind Mark, so I did.
And take us through the rest of your race. I mean, you had a great battle with Tim Doyle in the early part of this race, and then you had the moment in pit lane where race control asked you to take a penalty, a slow down penalty, and then you had a battle with Mark Warmington, and it did look as though you had the legs of Warmington in the last part of this race.
Yeah, indeed, that is true, Will. Indeed, yeah, I was close to serve a penalty, but I slowed down to let the time catch me. And after that, yeah, I had some great racing with Mark, and I think that Mark has had some troubles with some lapped car. Otherwise, I think it could be more interesting between me and Mark.
And moving on to Dover next week, putting all of the drama around this race aside, Dover is going to be a different challenge. It's a very bumpy, very technical track. You've raced Dover before. How do you think that's going to feed into the rest to this race?
Dover is also one of my favorites, and it's indeed bumpy. But yeah, I'm curious how the racing is going to be over there, as it is a very short track, and yeah, the low line is working. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to the race and to see if we are all single file or that it is going to be an interesting race.
So we're going to let you go back to your teammates momentarily, and that is going to conclude our broadcast of round 7 of the Afterburn IndyCar series. We have to go. We've run slightly over time. Poor little Joni needs to go to bed, but we'll be back next week, same time, same place for the Dover 250 live on Glacier TV. Until then, all of the drama of the last couple of laps at Kentucky, we will talk about that on teamafterburn.com. So keep an eye on teamafterburn.com for the race report. Until then, we'll see you all next week.